Okay, that just about wrap things up for me. So, pass turn.
Okay, great. I will untap and welcome to Untapped Potential. This is episode 2 of our little pod vidcast, where we're going to talk about the new sets of Magic the Gathering as they are spoiled or released, and kind of give a little bit of a overview of the cards that we think are going to be good in limited when you go to your pre-release or your release weekend events in this case.
Yes. The objective when we initially started this, if you listened to our first episode about Modern Horizons, was we wanted to try and get these done before pre-release. But we had a little bit of timing issues and a couple technical snags that kept us from getting to M20 in a timely fashion, which is the con. But the pro is that I have since been able to do pre-release and can actually talk about how some of the cards functioned. I'm sure I'll have some stories to tell about those. But hey, just in case you don't know who we are, I'm David.
And I am Nick. I think having your insights into actually playing with the cards is going to be really helpful. And we've also taken this opportunity to try and refine our format. So instead of going through the entire set like we did in the first episode, we've now picked out select cards, new printing of cards that haven't been printed before, to talk about, and maybe just a few reprints here and there. But by and large, we're going to focus on the new stuff to try and evaluate how they're going to shape up in the new limited meta, and perhaps even for some of the other formats that we like to play.
Indeed. Now, core sets are interesting because there are a lot more reprints in a lot of these cases than there are new cards, but this is why we want to balance it out. I'm sure with whatever set comes next, we'll definitely get to talk about a lot of the newer stuff in general. There might be a lot of new mechanics to talk about, but core sets, I already felt like this is going to be a little bit of a breeze to get through, because while I think the way we're handling it is a good way to talk about the cards' strengths both in limited and in formats beyond, there's also not a ton of new mechanics to talk about. Most of them are evergreen, or at least deciduous. We've got the return of protection, which we will get into a little bit, and we have several interesting cycles to also discuss. So I don't know. I'm pretty down to talk about this set, even so.
Yeah, me too. I think that the cards, the new stuff that's been printed looks really cool, and some of the choice reprints look pretty nice. They're going to fit into everything really well, and yeah, I'm just excited to share our thoughts with everybody else.
Likewise. So that said, why don't we go ahead and get right into this with White? We always go in Wooburg.
Mm-hmm.
Wooburg. I don't know why I emphasize that.
Would you like to start us off, or should I?
Well, I mean, it is your turn. You just untapped. We're now getting into that. That was our upkeep, basically. So main phase is yours.
Fair enough. Well, thank you very much. All right, so the first card that we're going to talk about in White is a strong card. Right off the bat, we're going to talk about a Planeswalker. We've got Ajani, Strength of the Pride. This is a legendary Planeswalker Ajani for 2 white, with 5 loyalty as he enters the battlefield. He has 3 abilities. +1, you gain life equal to the number of creatures you control, plus the number of planeswalkers you control. -2, create a 2/2 white cat soldier creature token named Ajani's Pridemate, with whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Ajani's Pridemate. And then he has a 0 ability. If you have at least 15 life more than your starting life total, exile Ajani's Strength of the Pride, and each artifact and creature your opponents control.
So, it's your favorite Planeswalker, Nick.
It is! Hey, Bro Johnny's back. I'm
Bro
so happy.
Johnny!
Yeah, I think he seems pretty cool. He fits a niche for, his other Ajani cards that we haven't seen before. Getting life gain from his plus is nice. That's kind of on theme for him. I like that his -2 creates a token version of an actual card. I think that's really neat. That's something that we haven't seen before. And then his 0 ability to just exile everything with, sacrificing himself in the process, as long as you have lots of life. I think that's very, very strong. And the fact that you can do it even when he's at 1 loyalty means that as long as you can fulfill the other requirement, it's going to blow up everything. And I think that's really strong on a Planeswalker.
Yeah, it's a decent. It has the potential to be a very, very good, and you can do it right away too, which is nuts. So it's basically a 4 mana, one-sided board wipe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean,
dang,
who doesn't? Yeah, who doesn't like Wrath of God, and who doesn't like it more when it only targets your opponents?
Right. Furthermore, how rare is it that you get a planeswalker that you can just immediately use all three of its loyalty abilities?
Yeah, right off the bat, that's pretty nuts.
Well, Johnny continues to be the bro Johnnyest Catman.
He's my friend. I love him so much.
He's a pretty cool guy, and we like him. Now, when I gotta ask you, a Johnny Oathbreaker deck when?
Ooh, interesting. I hadn't even thought about that.
I was wondering,
Get back to me in a little bit. I'll have to brew something up.
Okay, sounds good. Now, I realize this wasn't on our list initially, but I want to tack it on here because as I'm reading it, I realize this is a card that's kind of significant to talk about. Sure. I'm going to grab Angel of Vitality here.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
There's a little bit of an angel theme going on with some flyers, so I want to talk a bit about her. So we got us a 2/2 angel for 2 and a white. She is flying. If you would gain life, you gain that much life plus 1 instead. Angel of Vitality gets +2/+2 as long as you have 25 or more life. Now, 2/2 flying for 3 is acceptable and limited. The life gain's a little bit of a plus, and being able to boost it is plus. It's not like a really amazing card, but I just kind of like it considering confession, I have a love for flyers because of my Isperia the Inscrutable commander deck that I run.
Right.
So
well,
I'm always
that
looking.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I'm always looking for like fun little toolboxy flyers to put in there that I can dig up with Isperia and use in various situations. Now, I don't know if this would make the cut in that regard. There are other cards that we will definitely talk about that make the cut. But in a deck in a color that seems to have a lot of life gain, a lot of angels, and a lot of flyers, I think this is a nice little card that combines all three.
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty strong. I've been able to play a few matches and drafts, sealed events, that sort of thing, on Magic Arena. And the last deck that I drafted is a black-white life gain deck, basically. And I wasn't able to get Angel of Vitality, but if I had, it would definitely have made the cut because I found it very, very easy with that sort of archetype to maintain a life total of 25 or more. So being able to drop a 4/4 for 3 that flies and then buffs your like life gain all the time, that's actually really, really good and limited, I found.
Oh yeah, it's I wish I'd opened one. I can imagine. I think part of the reason I singled it out is because I wish I'd opened one. But you know, sealed is fun for me because you get to keep all your cards, and I'm a collector almost more than I play the game. I'm a collector sometimes, but it is fickle in that sometimes you don't open the choicest cards for a given color.
Yeah, whereas if you're doing just a normal booster draft, you get to kind of pick and choose which cards you choose.
Right.
Or you take, rather. So, yeah, that's the give and take, but I'm sure, it's an uncommon. Just open a few more packs. You'll probably find one.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, so we'll just move right along, I think.
Okay.
We're going to keep this going at a pretty decent clip.
Sure.
So we're going to go to...
I promise this won't be 4.5 hours like Modern Horizons.
Yes, we're trying to dial it back. Okay, so the next card we want to talk about is Apostle of Purifying Light. This is a 2/1 creature, human cleric, for 1 and a white. It has protection from black, and for 2 generic mana, you can exile target card from a graveyard. Protections back. We kind of mentioned that earlier. And it's neat to see it back because it's been a while. It had been an evergreen mechanic for a long time, which means that they would print it in every set. Mm-hmm. It got downgraded to deciduous, which means that they only print it every once in a while. Then they kind of removed it from the rotation completely, and now they're bringing it back straight to evergreen status. So it's going to be around all the time again, which is cool because it's a pretty interesting mechanic. Good way to teach new players about color identity. And this card is pretty strong, honestly. There's lots of decks that have been playing black, and being able to have protection from that color and being able to get in without being blocked or blocking without taking damage is really good. And, being able to exile cards from any graveyard means that you can really screw with other players' graveyard matters synergies.
It's almost a bear with upside. If it just had one more toughness, it would just be a bear with upside.
Yeah, I actually, you know what? The term bear has been pretty loose in some different deck designs, so I wouldn't be surprised if this starts seeing play in, some more, modern type environments.
Right. I know a lot of these cards that have a specific color tend to be sideboard cards. I would mainboard Apostle Purifying Light in a limited deck, just because the odds of you bumping up against someone playing black are high. Having played black myself at pre-release, some of the really powerful cards I've run into are black. So even just having this little guy with pro black who just can be there is just nice.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Seems like a pretty decent overall card, especially for an uncommon.
All right, we're going to talk next about Bishop of Wings. This is a 1/4 human cleric for 2 white. Whenever an angel enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 4 life. Whenever an angel you control dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. It's nice to see a nod back to the old Abyssinian pilgrims in the art here.
Both Dave and I are big fans of both of the Innistrad blocks, so anything that even remotely references them, we both get pretty excited.
This is an odd card because this wants you to love angels, and trust me, angels are cool. But there's only so many angels in this set.
Yeah, you did mention earlier that there's a small sub-theme of angels, and like we talked about Angel of Vitality, there's a couple of other common ones that are kicking around, but this one definitely seems like in a limited environment, it's probably not going to make as big an impact as it could, but it would definitely be a great card to throw into, a commander deck that cares about angels, or, some other sort of constructed format that you can really build around it and use it like an engine.
Right. If you're in a limited environment and you have this and you're running 4 copies of Dawning Angel, for example,
Sure, yeah.
then there might be some value in it. So it's really, really situational, but I think it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it could be better, could be worse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next card that we were going to talk about is an instant. This is Brought Back for white. Choose up to 2 target permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. Return them to the battlefield tapped. Interesting.
Yeah.
So obviously very situational. If you have found yourself on the bad side of some combat trades, or if they happen to blow up a bunch of your creatures with murder or something like that, then, this could be a blowout because you're getting 2 back for the price of 1 card. But the fact that you have to have them die and then have the mana to do it could be good, but
it could be. I mean, again, there were times where I wish I would have had a card like this when, say, something in my graveyard was being targeted by that necromancer that turns one of your cards into a zombie token, and
sure,
it's one of your bombs that just got murdered and sent there, and you want to get it back, but you don't have a soul, or you don't have a Gravedigger in your hand. So
right.
Anyway, instant speed is nice. It's a fine card for 2 mana. You're getting them back on the battlefield right away.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's pretty nice. Weirdly enough, we've one thing me and Nick agreed to early is we're going to kind of save the cycles to the end. This is actually part of a pseudo cycle.
Oh, really?
There's a set in Wooburg, in each of the colors, there is 1 instant or sorcery that deals with sort of 2 things.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
2 permanents. In this case, Brought Back does that. We'll point them out as we get to them.
Okay.
Right. But we're going to save most of the cycles till the end.
Yes.
Right. So next up on our cavalcade of cards, if I recall, God's Willing.
Yeah, it's our first reprint.
Yeah, this is one of the few reprints I want to talk about in this set because it's a powerhouse, and I don't know if I need to go into huge detail about it. If you've been playing a while, you all know God's Willing, but just in case, it got bumped up to uncommon. It's an instant for 1 white. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn, and scry 1. This was a limited and even standard staple back in Theros block.
Yeah, and it's really neat to see it back. Theros is one of the sets that I was playing when I kind of got back into the hobby, so all of the cards from that set hold a special place in my heart, and God's Willing is just such a powerful effect for a single mana that it's like an auto-include in any deck that you're playing that's white, basically.
Right. Yet another card I didn't open.
Oh, that's sad. Yeah. But yeah, it does what it says on the tin, gives your creature protection, lets you scry at the top card of your deck. I mean, for a single mana, I don't know if you could ask for much more.
It's so good. There's so much value packed in this little card. This is like the ideal cantrip.
Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't quite replace itself, but gives you the foresight to look ahead and figure out what you want to do with the top card. So, yeah, still primo card. Totally get the bumping to uncommon. We were almost spoiled having it in common back in the day.
Next card that we have is Hanged Executioner. This is a 1/1 flying spirit for 2 and a white. When Hanged Executioner enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. And then you can pay 3 and a white and exile Hanged Executioner to exile target creature.
Flavor win.
yeah, very much. Spirits are always great. And then, having a having a ghost executioner executing something else by exiling it later on, that's pretty great.
I'm going to take myself out and take you with me.
That's right.
But not just into the graveyard. We're leaving the game entirely.
We're going on a trip. Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah,
this seems like a really, really good card. 2 power, 2 toughness over 2 bodies
with
they
evasion.
Both fly.
Yeah.
For 3 mana, that's great. And then having an exile on a stick for later on in the game, primo. It's a very good card.
This card is marvelous. I love it.
Yeah.
I wish I'd opened one.
Are you just gonna spend this whole time talking about cards that you wish you opened?
Okay, I'll stop.
No, it's fine. You can.
I mean,
I just want to know up front.
I mean, you can only open so many rares. I will tell you this much. I did open Bishop of Wings in that pre-release kit. Didn't use it because I didn't have enough angels to justify it. But,
Yeah, it's too bad.
Hanged Executioner would have been really nice. And I still think it's nice. And I think, I like cards. I like spirits.
I mean, if you're making a spirit tribal deck, it goes right in there. Why not?
Yeah, definitely. Now, if you're making an Elephant Cleric deck, you have Locked In on Life Changer.
Because that's not overly specific.
No, it's not. I mean, come on. I mean, people do wacky tribes all the time, I'm sure. Crab Tribal, when Wizards.
Crab
Tribal. So this Elephant Cleric is a 4/6 for 5 and a white. When Locks It On Life Chanter enters the battlefield, you may have your life total become the total toughness of creatures you control. And then for 5 and a white, Locks It On Life Chanter gets +X until end of turn, where X is your life total. This card is fascinating.
So one of the many commander decks that I have uses Doran the Siege Tree, which means that he cares all about creatures that have really big toughness, doesn't care about power. This goes straight into that sort of deck because all of the creatures that you have are going to be gigantic, walls and that sort of thing, and you're just going to get 1,000,000 life, and then you can then pump this guy with your 1,000,000 life to go and smack someone in the face. Even in limited, I had this played against me in a match in arena, and just by dint of having like 7 creatures, like even just tokens, 1/1 tokens, you end up going from like 3 life to over 20.
Yeah,
really, really easily, and then you're suddenly threatening attacking with like a 24/26 the next turn. It's very daunting to go up against, and I think this is like a very solid card.
As long as you have the mana, yeah. I mean, I'm always that person who looks at a mana cost and goes like, ugh. But you know what? 6 mana for this thing is actually really reasonable, especially if you're at a low life total, but you got a decent board.
I mean, at the very least, when it enters the battlefield, you have a 4/6 and you gain 6 life.
Yes.
And that by itself is already decent.
Mm-hmm.
And having the potential to go even higher than that is, just icing on the cake. This is great.
It's so good. You know what? Imagine throwing, I know we didn't talk about it, but and we won't talk about it in detail, but like you said, Doran is a good choice, but if you're running this in standard, you have a High Alert.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we didn't talk about it, but there is an enchantment that you can an aura that you can put on creatures that let them do damage equal to their toughness rather than their power.
Yeah, that's Gauntlets of Light, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so that's the same sort of thing as High Alert. You end up with lots of different ways that you can make this attacking as a 6/6 without any buffs, and that's again just like very, very powerful.
Yes. Oh, so good.
Yeah, very good card.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about one of my favorite cards in the entire set, and that's Sephara, Sky's Blade. This is a legendary angel, a 7/7 for 4 and 3 white. You may pay 1 white and tap 4 untapped creatures you control with flying rather than pay the spell's mana cost. It has flying and lifelink, and other creatures you control with flying have indestructible. Now,
you mentioned earlier that you have a kind of flying tribal Asperia commander deck.
This card and Asperia are best friends.
Yeah, Sephara and Asperia, they go on like long flights by the beach.
I think they date. Like,
Okay,
honestly,
cool.
I think they date, and it was really sad when Assassin's Trophy happened to Asperia, and I'm pretty sure Safara still hasn't forgiven Vraska for that. But honestly, I would tutor her up in a heartbeat among the 99. I think she's a powerful general in her own right. If you want to go with flying tribal theme.
Sure, yeah.
But
Being able to, discount her commander tax by being able to just pay a single white and then tap for flying creatures rather than pay its mana cost. That seems really good.
yeah, it's kind of situational, but it's cool. It requires a level of commitment, but it's a way to not have to spend the mana, which is really nice. Weirdly enough, this was my promo rare.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I was really happy about that. Like, I opened the pack, saw her all shiny and foil, and thought to myself, okay, anything else I open after this is just icing, because I just opened one of the cards I wanted really bad, and so I can put her in Asperia. I'm going to tutor her up with Asperia, get her on the field somehow. In a deck like that, and as I'll tell you, in Limited, I think she's pretty good. More often than not, I would drop her for 7 mana, and my deck was built in such a way that by the time she hit the field, I literally dropped her on the field one point, and my opponent looked at me and said, I concede.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because he didn't have any answers. I love her. She's great.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy for you that you were able to pull it. And even as your promo card, that's even better.
Well, thank you very much. Next, we're going to talk about our last white card that we've kind of pulled out of the bunch before we get to the cycles later, and that's Starfield Mystic. This is a human cleric, a 2/2 for 1 and a white. Enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Starfield Mystic. When I first saw this, I kind of underestimated how good it could potentially be.
Okay.
I don't know how great it is in Limited still, but it does seem like a pretty neat card, all in all.
I mean, in Limited, I think you are, there's, a fairly finite number of things that you can get value out of this from. Maybe things like pacifism. There aren't any really powerful standalone enchantments that you want to be looking for. There's no, O-ring effects or anything like that.
And besides, if you have any of the ley lines, you're just going to probably drop them from your opening hand anyway, so...
Exactly, yeah. But if you're looking at Enchantress-type designs that care about playing lots of enchantments, maybe using Astral Drift even from Modern Horizons.
Yeah,
but
it's definitely it's a constructed card. It's not a limited card.
Yeah, for sure. In Limited, it's going to be very limited. I mean, at least it's a bear. I don't know.
You do get a bear with a strict upside bear.
Yeah, which, that's always fun.
Yeah.
But
so, White's feeling pretty good.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool standout cards. We've obviously picked out a couple of them, mentioned a couple of other ones that have caught our eye. There are a couple of pretty powerful white cards that we're going to talk about sort of later on in this episode. But as for, the overall feeling that I'm getting from what we've looked at, I think, there's some pretty decent cards here. And obviously some big standouts like Safara.
Mm-hmm. With white now firmly set, let's move on to blue.
Yes.
All right. So the first card that we've selected to talk about is Agent of Treachery. This is a human rogue, a 2/3 for 5 and 2 blue. When Agent of Treachery enters the battlefield, gain control of target permanent. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more permanents you don't own, draw 3 cards. Ooh. So being able to have a body that then takes a permanent, not even a creature, a permanent your opponent controls, already pretty decent for the price. Mm-hmm. But trying to pull the second ability off, as I think just is something that makes me just look at this guy and go, challenge accepted.
Yeah, it definitely sort of prods that part of your brain that likes to brew decks, where you're like, how can I abuse this and try to, draw a bunch of cards by controlling all of my opponent's stuff. Again, sort of the same as with Starfield Mystic. I don't think that this card is going to be super great in Limited. It's likely that when you play it, you can, steal your opponent's best thing, but the second clause might as well be completely blank in Limited, because I don't think there's any way to really recur him reliably so that you can continue stealing stuff. But sometimes stealing just one permanent is good enough.
Yeah, I honestly think that situationally this is better in Limited than Starfield Mystic.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because, having enchantments in your own deck is iffy, especially depending on what enchantments you're playing. But you just want something cool on your opponent's board. It's going to cost you 7 mana, but hey, you're going to get that thing, and then it's yours.
I mean, if they dropped Saphara and then you drop this in response, okay.
And keep in mind, it doesn't what you've stolen doesn't go away if you lose control of Agent of Treachery. You could blink Agent of Treachery and just steal 3 things.
Yeah, and you can really there's definitely ways to abuse him. Yeah, I think he's a very interesting design, and I think he's a pretty powerful card overall.
Definitely.
Okay, next card is the next legendary creature. This one in blue. This is Atempsis, All-Seeing. This is a 4/5 flying legendary creature Sphinx for 3 blue. For 2 into blue and tap, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. And then whenever Atempsis All-Seeing deals damage to an opponent, you may reveal your hand. If cards with at least 6 different converted mana costs are revealed this way, that player loses the game.
There was a match I played against someone who initially didn't necessarily know how good this card was, and it sat on their sideboard after our game was over. Yeah, after our game was over, I pointed her out and said, you should really be running this. And he replied, I don't know if I can pull off the second ability. And I said, no. Look at the first ability. Ignore the second ability altogether. That's situational. Probably won't come up. But you're getting a fat flyer with a strict upside loot effect.
Yeah,
like, that's absolutely
good. There are very few flyers in this set that are bigger than a 4/5. And there are very, very few cards, if any others, that let you loot as successfully as Atempsis does.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you did the nice thing and pointed out that the guy should have been playing that card, but why, I don't know why you would never play him in the first place.
This player, it was their first pre-release, and we had done a couple games, and I said, like, I'm surprised you're not running this, and he said, well, I just didn't know if I could make the second ability work. I'm like, I know the second ability is really tempting, and in other situations, yes, it could be fun. You might have an opportunity to pull it off, but really what you want is in limited, you want that draw, and you want that thing. Atempsis is a bomb in limited, and I would happily run her in any deck I opened as long as my blue pool is strong enough.
Definitely. And I mean, if you can somehow make the second part work, then, all the power to you. That's an automatic win on your part. But, just a 4/5 that draws you 2, and then you have to discard a card. There's nothing. This is a great card. I don't know how many different ways we can say it. Play this card if you pull it.
Absolutely. I get to talk about Boreal Elemental.
Yeah.
So this is a 3/4 elemental for 4 and a blue. Elemental being important because that's another one of this set's weird sub themes. It's like a pseudo tribal theme. It's flying. Spells your opponent's cast that target Boreal Elemental cost 2 more to cast. There's something missing.
Yeah.
What's missing?
Why isn't this a snow creature, you cowards?
Wizard, you cowards!
It's an elemental made of ice. It's flying over a snowy landscape. We just had snow permanence in Modern Horizons, and then you just pass on this?
Well, I mean, if rumors are to be believed, we're going to see a lot more snow in the near future.
Well, then why wouldn't this be a snow creature?
They're not ready to make snow evergreen yet, or even deciduous.
I'm not actually mad, but I'm mad. Okay.
Well, okay, you can be not actually mad, but I'm kind of actually mad because this is perfect snow. I'm a little. Have it be a snow creature for no other reason and doesn't even have to cost snow. Just have it be a snow creature.
Yeah, for sure. All of that aside, Boreal Elemental, from what I have seen playing in Arena, is a Stone Cold Bomb for a comp.
Oh, yeah, I was running one of these in my deck, and it just, every time it showed up, it was a real menace for my opponent to deal with.
3/4 flyer for 5, that might seem expensive, but it's actually pretty reasonably costed. It's really, it's hard for them to block effectively, and it's almost impossible for them to, to remove using spells, cheaply, or, with some benefit on their part, because it costs that extra 2 more to cast.
Right.
So, just being able to avoid, normal removal spells, this makes a murder, cost 5 mana instead of 3. That gets really prohibitive sometimes, and are they going to waste all of that mana on getting rid of one creature? but it's flying. It can evade. You can't get rid of it normally. There's lots of decisions that are around this creature, and it's great.
I have a pro tip for getting around this that I know from experience.
Okay.
If you manage to trick someone into using it for a block, and then on your second main drop a Fathom Fleet Cutthroat,
ooh,
that doesn't count. It's entered the battlefield, and it's a triggered ability rather than a
spell.
So that's how my Boreal Elemental got a couple times.
That's pretty tricksy and some good tech. We'll look at we'll look at that pirate a little bit later, but that's a pretty good tip there, Dave.
There you go. You can have that one for free, everybody.
Okay, next card. Speaking of pirates, we have Brineborn Cutthroat.
Yar.
This is a 2/1 Merfolk pirate for 1 and a blue. It has flash, and whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Brineborn Cutthroat.
I'm surprised there haven't been more Merfolk pirates. This is the first Merfolk pirate, I think.
That's pretty cool. I mean, on Ixalan, the Merfolk and the pirates were very, directly opposed, obviously. But getting to see an actual Merfolk pirate, which I think looks like it's from Ixalan anyway.
Yeah.
It's pretty rad.
I mean, in the story they talk about there being some Merfolk hanging around in High and Dry, which is the pirate township. So It doesn't surprise me that there would be Merfolk pirates, but I just really like this idea.
Yeah, the design of the card, like the art, is really cool, and the actual mechanics of the card seem really, really solid. It's, again, sort of a pseudo bear because it's a 2/1 for 2. You can play it on your opponent's turn, which is great, and then being able to cast spells on an opponent's turn to buff this guy. I mean, that's everything that blue wants to do. Anytime you counter one of their spells on their turn, this guy's going to get bigger, and it's pretty much everything that blue wants to do, and it seems like a really efficient beater for a blue deck to have.
This is both a flavor and mechanical win. This card is very, very cool.
Yeah, I would be very happy to get my hands on a copy of that.
You thinking of this one going in your counter deck, potentially? Is this a candidate?
Possibly. So yeah, just as a quick reminder, I have a commander deck that's focused around +1/+1 counters as the mechanic. All of the cards in the deck have to do with putting +1/+1 counters on stuff or removing them for benefit, that sort of thing. I'd need to look at my deck list to see if I have enough cards that I'm casting on other people's turns to make this worth it. If I have enough instants or, flash cards, that sort of thing, then this would be an auto include for sure, because it would just get buffed so fast, especially when you're playing Commander where you have so many other opponents' turns to deal with and to make this guy bigger. I think he would be a pretty good include in the deck.
Yeah, definitely. I like him a lot. I think he is a serious... I'm always happy to see... cards. Whenever you mentioned, this card is a shoe-in, or this card is even a potential for my deck, I go like, oh, good. Someone else to include in Nick's family of +1/+1 counterers.
Yay!
Congratulations, congratulations, Cutthroat.
Yeah, you know what? I'll give this guy even an honorary mention. Even if I don't think that he would go well in the deck, I would still like a copy of him to put into my little sideboard collection of other cards that have to do with +1/+1 counters, because I think he's that cool.
I would definitely put this guy in my Beckett Brass Pirate Brawl deck. This is probably going to go in there.
Yeah, I mean, pirates, man.
Pirates.
What's not to like?
I'm happy to see more pirates. There's some new pirates, and I want pirates to continue to just show up on random places now, so that way we can start slowly expanding that tribe beyond what was in just Ixalan.
Pirates to Evergreen.
Pirates to Evergreen, please. Oh, it looks like we're getting there.
I mean, that's fair.
Nice. It's a lot of untapped flavor. And how perfect to talk about on our show, huh?
Haha.
All right, let's move ahead. Now, I added this a little bit last minute to the list, but this is a choice common I'd like to talk about.
Sure.
This is Cloudkin Seer. This is an elemental wizard that's a 2/1 for 2 and a blue. Flying, when Cloudkin Seer enters the battlefield, draw a card.
Yeah, I mean, for a common, this seems very efficient.
Yeah. I mean, that's really all I want to say about it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You get other than a lack of toughness, you get a decent flyer out there, and you get the upside of a card draw. What's not to like about it? In the right kind of deck, or even in a deck that just has blue, I would say, yeah, throw one of these in. You're replacing it with another card just by casting it.
Definitely. And yeah, you did touch on this earlier. There is an elemental sub-theme in core 2020 that lots of cards care about elementals, and this happens to be an elemental wizard. So you get some extra benefit on it from just that.
Yeah. So,
Very cool.
So yeah, just shout out to Cloudkin Seer.
I like it. Next card that we were going to talk about is Drawn from Dreams. This is a sorcery for 2 blue. Look at the top 7 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
This is part of that 2 cycle I was telling you about.
I see that. Interesting. So there's, the 2 fishies. Yeah, this seems like a really solid rare. It reminds me a lot of Dig Through Time from, I think that was that Fate Reforged?
I think it was Fate Reforged, yeah.
So Dig Through Time let you do the exact same thing, except that it cost significantly more. I think it was 5 blue, but then it had Delve, so you could exile cards from your graveyard to, reduce the generic mana cost. This is more reasonably priced without the Delve stapled onto it, but being able to look at 7 cards and then choose 2 of them, and then the rest of them, just go on the bottom of your library, that's the best card selection that you could ask for. And for 4 mana, I think that's beyond fair and is definitely a great include in any blue deck.
This is a powerful card, and everything you said I would basically echo at this point. So yeah, this is great. It's like better anticipate at sorcery speed.
Yeah, for sure.
Just for more mana. So yeah. So this is one of the reprints we're happy to talk about, even though we're trying to spread them out. This is Dungeon Geists, returning to us from Innistrad. This is a spirit, a 3/3 spirit for 2 and 2 blue. It flies, and when it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for as long as you control Dungeon Geists. It's a decent bit of pseudo removal. You tap a thing down, a problematic thing, and you've got a 3/3 body with evasion for 4 mana. Just a sound card all around, and really, really rad, spooky art by Niels Ham.
Yeah, Niels Ham. He's got that crazy, creepy art vibe.
Niels Ham.
Yeah, he's great. This is a really awesome include. I think there's spirits kicking around. There's lots and lots of flyers that different cards care about, and just the extra added benefit of being able to tap something down and then it stays that way is just extra. Basically, you can pay 4 mana for a 3/3 flyer, just that on many other cards, and having this extra thing stapled onto it. I mean, it was great when it was first released, and it's great to see it as a reprint here.
Yeah, definitely. I like Dungeon Geists, and great limited card too.
Oh yes, absolutely. Next card that we wanted to talk about is Masterful Replication. This is an instant for 5 and a blue. Choose 1. Either create 2 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature tokens, or choose target artifact you control. Each other artifact you control becomes a copy of that artifact until end of turn. More than likely, in a limited environment, when you play this card, you will just be paying 6 mana to get 2 3/3 golems at instant speed. And that's decent enough. But, beyond the limited format, there's so many different implications of what this card can do in, the many different artifact-centric decks designs that there are.
Yes, there's a huge window of opportunity for this one. I mean, honestly, just blue and artifacts go together so well. You wanna run this in Urza? You want your Urza deck to run this? Yeah, I can see why. This is
yeah, sure.
I think it's great, and I like cards that give you choices at instant speed. Even for a cost like that, you just prepare for it, and you can catch your opponent by surprise. Especially if you've got a really powerful artifact-centric deck. Imagine, for example, turning all your artifacts into Wormcoil engines for a turn.
You just have a million Wormcoil engines, and then you attack willy-nilly, and then they all die or whatever, and then you end up with a million 3/3s.
Oh man, put this on with, even in Standard, put this in a deck with Saheeli, the new Saheeli.
Oh man, oh. Wow! Oh, jeez. There's lots of stuff you can do with this. Yeah.
Yes.
Go out there, ye many, and brew and find ways to abuse this card because they are there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure people are already brewing about it too. But we'll see. Come Friday, as of this recording, come Friday, we'll see what people do with it when the set properly releases.
definitely.
Now, I'm gonna skip over moat piranhas, but I just want to note a cool flavor thing in its flavor text.
Oh, yes, please. You pointed this out to me earlier.
Yeah, come on, it's not even that deep, and that's by Gorin the Brazen. Any relation to Norin the Wary?
I mean, it probably is his more, more brazen brother.
More piranha-eaten brother, more like.
I mean, yeah, brazen sometimes also means foolish, so yeah, cool card.
Yes, definitely. But what I actually get to talk about, and this makes me happy, is the lovely Mu Yangling, Sky Dancer. So this is a legendary planeswalker who has only 2 loyalty and costs 1 and 2 blue. For +2, you can, until end of your next turn, up to 1 target creature gets -2/-0 and loses flying. For -3, create a 4/4 blue elemental bird creature token with flying. And for -8, you get an emblem with islands you control have tap. Draw a card. Wow.
So yeah, that emblem is absolutely insane. All blue ever wants to do, all any Magic player wants to do is draw more cards.
Well, that's why blue is the most popular color, generally speaking.
Yeah, because you get to draw the most cards. I personally think that her plus ability is fairly weak.
Yeah.
Reducing the power of a creature and making it lose flying is situationally pretty good, but sometimes it's just -2/-0. The fact that she only starts at 2 loyalty is a little bit disconcerting, considering that the only thing she can do when you play her is do the +2 ability.
Right.
But if she can survive until the next turn, the potential to get a 4/4 flyer is really, really good. And then if you can somehow get her all the way up to 8 loyalty and then, use her ultimate to get that emblem where all of your islands can tap to draw cards, you're probably just going to win the game at that point.
I mean, if you're able to keep her alive that far, it's only going to take you maybe 4 turns to get there?
Yeah, if
1,
you
2,
don't
3,
do
4.
anything. Yep. And then you would
6.
zero her out to do that.
Yeah.
But, that would probably be worth it.
Yeah, especially if you have ways to put counters on walkers. Like, okay, she's going to... Since Mu Yangling didn't get a... card in War of the Spark. It's good to see her actually here. I feel like she's going to benefit hugely from blue proliferate decks.
Definitely, yeah. From War of the Spark, proliferate was a huge, mechanic that was all over the place. You're going to have lots of ways in Standard to really abuse her and get her up to that high loyalty total to be able to use her ultimate. In a limited format, probably not as much.
Right. I still think she has the potential to be pretty good in limited, though. Just not as good as she would be in a constructed format that's specifically designed around getting her to her ultimate if you want. And I gotta say, her middle ability is actually pretty strong.
Yeah, I don't know many other planeswalkers that can create 4/4 flyers.
Yeah.
or 4/4 anything, really. And being able to do that reliably is pretty intense.
Right.
Next card we wanted to talk about is another common, Octoprophet. This is a 3/3 octopus for 3 and a blue. When Octoprophet enters the battlefield, scry 2. It's an octopus that lets you scry. It's called Octoprophet. I don't like...
How much more do you need to say? This card's amazing.
It's great. Such a flavor win, and it's just hilarious. And I've been trying to design a blue-green Oathbreaker deck for my wife using Kiora as the commander, and it's just all about gigantic aquatic creatures like leviathans and krakens and stuff, and you know that this octopus is going to go in there because it's an octopus. So
heck yeah,
why not?
I mean, it's a goddamn octopus.
It's a goddamn octopus.
It's so cool. It really
Yeah,
is a flavor
great.
win. It's a choice card, good and limited, and fun in flavor. That's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, guess what? It's
what?
another pirate!
Yar.
Yarr! This is Spectral Sailor. It's a spirit pirate. That's a 1/1 for 1 blue. It has flash and flying. And for 3 and a blue, you can draw a card. Mwah! It doesn't...
Oh, it gets the chef kiss. Oh my.
Yeah. So here's the thing about this card, because I've had a chance to play with this a couple times on Arena now. In limited,
Okay.
and this card has potential. If you could, early game, you have a little flyer to ping with, you could surprise attack people. If at worst case scenario, you throw it into chump block.
Sure.
Flash and flying are always good, having the additional evasion. But if you have 5 mana down, you could drop it on an opponent's turn, chump it if you need to, and then immediately spend your remaining 4 to draw a card.
Perfect.
And if you keep it around for a while, you just draw cards whenever you need to. Like, that's,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, it's 4 to draw a card, but that's always, and you don't even have to tap Spectral Sailor for it.
And I mean, once again, blue is all about keeping mana open on your opponent's turn and just waiting for an opportunity to do something. And if you have options, if they don't end up casting a spell that you can counter and you have to draw a card, oh no, you got to draw a card. And that's just great.
Yeah, it's great. I like Spectral Sailor. It's also going in my whatever Pirate Singleton deck I build, be it Brawl or be it eventually Beckett Brass Commander.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there would be a good Grixis colored Planeswalker to make a pirate deck about.
Nicol Bolas.
Sure, why not? He can be a pirate too.
All right.
Next card that we want to talk about is Tail's End. This is an instant for 1 and a blue. Counter target activated ability, triggered ability, or legendary spell.
Huh.
It's a blue counter spell. It's cheap, but it's obviously very conditional. But I think, Dave and I feel similarly about blue. It's obviously the most powerful color in Magic, but in some ways it's also the most boring.
Yeah.
Because you're just not allowing your other opponents to play cards.
The best way to win the game is not let your opponent play. So
right, and so being able to counter stuff is obviously strong. We feel that it's more fun if you just try to throw a bunch of stuff at each other, whatever. But this counter spell seems very specific and specific enough that it doesn't feel unfair.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously being able to target activated abilities or triggered abilities, that's very specific. The only other kind of cards that do that are, Disallow from Kaladesh and Stifle, which is, a staple from a long time ago. But the additional clause of being able to also counter a legendary spell, that's, again, very situational, very conditional, but it's so specific that because it's so specific, it doesn't feel quite as feel bad, I guess.
Yeah.
If it would happen to you.
Exactly. No, but let's be real though. What you're really going to use this for, honestly, is just to deal with planeswalkers.
That's true, because activating their loyalty abilities is an activated ability.
Yep. And for that matter, a lot of them do have triggered abilities as well, especially the uncommon ones from War of the Spark.
That's true.
And you just want to straight up counter them because they are legendary. So this card is just like, no walking, no planeswalking, no planeswalkers.
It seems very specifically designed almost to be an anti-planeswalker counterspell, which I hadn't considered before. But yeah, that's a very intuitive thing to point out there, Dave.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I'd like to point out another card intuitively that is a reprint and near and dear to my heart. It is Warded of Evo's Isle.
More Niels Hom.
This is a bird wizard that's a 2/2 for 2 and a blue. Flying. Creature spell with flying you cast costs 1 less to cast. I mean, I already have this in Asperia. As soon as I knew that this card existed, it was slotted into Asperia. I think back in M14, I want to say.
Yeah, this is an old standard in a lot of other decks, and this is... Yeah, it's great to see it back. It obviously goes really well in this set, and it's just a solid card overall. And that artwork is so good.
It is really good. Good to see you back again, Mr. Warden. Or Mrs. Warden. I don't know, you're a bird. I can't tell.
It's a bird wizard.
Thank you, bird wizard. You are a quest.
Bird wizard. Yeah. Okay, next card we have is Winged Words. This is a sorcery for 2 and a blue. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a creature with flying. Draw 2 cards. So, Dave, you've played a lot. You had an entire deck at the pre-release. How often did you have creatures with flying?
Oh, all the time. I had, I think, in total in the deck, I must have had like 5 or 6 of my 13 creatures had flying.
So that's a very large ratio. Being able to draw 2 cards for 2 mana, how does that strike you?
It feels really good. What can I say? It's divination, but better.
but just strictly better.
Strictly better if you have a winged creature. And yes, I would say in any situations, I would take winged words over divination.
For sure. Yeah, just for that extra possible benefit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, seems like a really solid card to pick up.
It is, and I'm glad you pointed it out. Man, blue is killing it this set. Like, I was like, white's solid, but no, blue's really feels like where it's at.
Yeah, blue has a lot of really, really good cards. A lot of really flavorful cards that we've talked about at length already. Mm-hmm. And just overall, I think the power level is quite a bit higher than white.
Yes.
Yeah, there's just a lot of really cool stuff going on in blue, and I'm pretty stoked about all these cards.
I'm here for it. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go to black. Yes. This is one of my favorite colors.
So the first card that we have is Agonizing Siphon. This is a sorcery for 3 into black. Agonizing Siphon deals 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life.
In limited, especially, this is a really good piece of removal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's lots of cards in black and in some in white that care about life gain. Like you have an effect if you gain life, and being able to remove a creature and get some life back is just great. Also, special mention, God damn it, Seb McKinnon, why are you making such great artwork
God damn it, Seb. Is this our first Seb piece?
It is our first Seb card. He saved all the good stuff for black, apparently.
Seb, well, I think Seb's style is so attuned to black when you think about it.
Very much so. I can't think off the top of my head any of the cards that he has done artwork for that aren't at least part black.
I just thought of one.
Oh,
sorry.
Is it growth
spiral? Growth spiral.
Never mind. I'll take that back. I never said anything. Seb McKinnon's just a great artist. He can do anything you want.
But his style is very good for black cards.
It is.
Yeah. Yes. So that's great. And yeah, this card I used a lot. I never used it I never used it against a player though. It was always removal. It was always creature removal, and the extra life gain, very nice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. It is nice that it has the flexibility to be any target. So it could be a creature removal. It could you could use it to finish off a planeswalker possibly, or going straight to the face if you need to. Why not?
Why not?
It's nice and flexible.
Yeah. I singled out Audacious Thief as a card I'd like to talk about. This is a human rogue,
yes.
A 2/2 human rogue for 2 into black. Whenever Audacious Thief attacks, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Now, I cite this only because in limited, it is a very good common. Even if you're just swinging to draw a card, it's, I think, in a lot of ways better than, for example, Dusk Legion Zealot, who just entered the battlefield and gave you a card draw for a life loss. This guy has the potential to do this multiple times. Even if you need him, even if he attacks into a fight he can't obviously get out of alive, you do it because you want that extra card draw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually did draft a copy of him in Arena in my black-white life gain deck, and I was really surprised at how efficient and how much of a beater this guy is. And yeah, sometimes you just attack into a block that you know is going to kill him because you want the extra card draw, and you don't have anything better to do with him. Really solid card. Also, bonus benefit, he triggers Prowl.
He does trigger Prowl.
How's that for a deep
cut? Hey, all you people out there who are holding out for rogues, here you go.
Yeah, it's happening.
It's happening. Oh, man. Could you imagine if we went back to Lorwyn and we actually got Prowl as a thing again? I would love that.
One day.
I would love that.
That and then Crab Tribal.
Crab Tribal! Do it! Or at least Homered Tribal.
Oh, crab people. Next card we're going to talk about is Blight Beetle. This is a card that I selected. It is a 1/1 insect for 1 in the black. It has protection from green, and creatures your opponents control can't have +1/+1 counters put on.
Oof.
In limited, this is probably not going to do too much. There are a couple of cards that care about +1/+1 counters.
This is in your pure sideboard.
Pure sideboard tech, for sure. The only reason that I really singled it out to talk about is because I have a commander deck that is designed around +1/+1 counters, and I just want to tell everybody, this card's terrible. Don't play it. It's not worth it.
This has been a PSA from Nick Jewell.
Yes, thank you.
I have a PSA, unless there's something else you'd like to say about Blight Beetle.
No, please, go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. So Blood for Bones. This is a goddamn it Seb for 3 in a black.
Yeah.
At this additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature, return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, then return another creature card from your graveyard to your hand.
The value.
The value. Well, I mean, this is a set with, reprints like Bone Splinters, but also reprints like Sanitarium Skeletons, which are things you can just get back anyway. So there's value for this in Limited.
Definitely. It's very similar to another card that was printed in a Commander set a while back called Victimize. It was cheaper. That one only cost 2 and a black, and you sacrifice a creature to get 2 creatures back from your graveyard to the battlefield. Obviously, that's more powerful, but in a limited format, this is almost as powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're getting any creature from your graveyard back to the battlefield, and then something else back to your hand. That's pure value. And being able to do it with other cards that you can recur, like Sanitarium Skeleton or other cheap token creatures, things like that, it's just all value. And yeah, this is definitely a great card in black for sure. And that artwork, oh man.
Seb... This feels like quintessential Seb McKinnon art too.
Very much, yeah.
He's got the whole spiral thing going on. There's some skeletons, which is very Seb.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. I believe you're next with.
I am, yes, with Bloodthirsty Aerialist. This is a 2/3 vampire rogue. There's Prowl again for 1 black.
You read my mind. I was about
flies.
to be like Prowl. Just roll under my breath, Prowl.
Bloodthirsty Aerialist has flying, and whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Bloodthirsty Aerialist. So obviously, this is a card that Blight Beetle could hose.
Yeah.
But not very many people are going to be playing that. So instead, what you're getting is a 2/3 flyer that it's already good for 3 mana, that when you're gaining life gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you're playing black-white specifically, that archetype is basically all about life gain. This can get very big very fast.
I wanted this so badly, but didn't open any.
Oh, man.
Because I had a lot of life gain stuff. Obviously, we have Agonizing Siphon above as an example of decent black removal.
For sure, yeah.
I tell you, black and white do go together really nicely in this set. You got a lot of cards with life gain in white, and a lot of cards with that benefit from that life gain, whether you're paying life or using it to buff Bloodthirsty Aerialist, for example. So they go.
Sure.
They're really cohesive in this in the limited environment, I think.
Definitely, yeah. I think this is a really solid card.
Plus, can we talk about how cool the art is?
It's also gorgeous, yeah. That it is. Yeah. Just in case you didn't realize, turn your head 180 degrees.
Yep.
Because she's hanging upside down.
If all goes well, you should see this card. Maybe this would be a good time to flip it upside down. Just to...
Yeah.
Okay, I'm giving you extra work. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All right. Okay. This is one you singled out. This is Disfigure, and this is a phenomenal reprint. This is a instant for 1 black. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. Short, sweet, to the point. Does exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah, it's primo removal spell in black, has been a staple of every format that it can be played in for as long as it has been printed. And the fact that it's getting a reprint into standard is pretty significant, I think. We had it's kind of been replaced in more legacy formats by Fatal Push from Kaladesh, because that's also a single black mana, but can remove things based on their CMC, their converted mana cost. But even still, just being able to efficiently give something -2/-2 for a single mana is fantastic. This is going to get rid of a lot of really early threats, and has the potential to also just finish off stuff that you might not otherwise be able to
It's
kill.
the closest thing black has to shock in a weird way.
Yeah, very much. And as a black shock, it feels very on theme.
It does, but it has the potential to be even better because it's reducing power just as much as toughness. So situationally, just in general, this is primo removal. For the cost,
definitely.
You can't ask for much better.
Yeah, and also classic artwork. So
yeah, definitely.
Next card is another black rare. This is Dread Presence. This is a creature nightmare 3/3 for 3 and a black. Whenever a swamp enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. You draw a card and lose a life, or Dread Presence deals 2 damage to any target and you gain 2 life.
I had this guy in my deck in limited, and every time he showed up in a game, I would usually win that game because my deck was 3 colors. I was running Esper, basically. But any swamp could suddenly turn into damage and life gain. I use that more than I do use the card drawing, but imagine this in a mono black deck.
Oh yeah, or if you have like Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth in play, where everything's a swamp.
I was just thinking about that. I run Urborg in my Muldrotha of the Gravetide EDH.
Well, put this card in that deck.
Oh yeah, Dread Presence is going in there for sure. Not exactly a graveyard love card, but it's got the card draw. It's got the damage slash siphoning. It's really good, and I would say a limited bomb.
Definitely, I would agree. 3/3 for 4 is a fine body with that extra benefit on top of it. It's just extra gravy. It's
yes. Great. So we'll move on to Embodiment of Agonies. This is a demon that's a 0/0 initially for 1 and 2 black. It's got flying and death touch. Embodiment of Agonies enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each different mana cost among non-land cards in your graveyard. Ooh.
This is a very cool card. Obviously, this is a good way to teach players about, converted mana costs, and that sort of thing. It specifically mentions that 2 into black and 1 black are different mana costs. So even though their converted mana cost is 3, the fact that they are completely different mana costs means that this counts each of them individually. And that's something that I think a lot of even long-term Magic players might confuse. So this is a pretty good educational tool. It's also very strong. Because by the time you're going to play it, you're probably going to end up with, a 4/4 flying death touch. Maybe later on in the game, it could be something like a 6/6. It can really take over the game quickly if you're able to play it at the right time. It's also a card that I'm considering for my commander deck because it seems really easy to abuse all of those different mana costs to make this thing massive.
I thought this might be one for yours. I mean, even if it's small, it's gonna have flying and death touch. That's like at the bare minimum, you're getting a Stinkweed Imp.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's nothing to scoff.
Not at all. Well done, Demon Man.
Indeed.
We have Knight of the Ebon Legion. This is a 1/2 Vampire Knight for 1. You can pay 2 in a black. Knight of the Ebon Legion gets +3/+3 and gains Death Touch until end of turn. Wow. At the beginning of your end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Knight of the Ebon Legion. Now,
this card seems pretty great.
It's pretty great. This is the other rare I ran, and the reason I went with black was because of this and Death's Presence.
Dread Presence. Those are two great cards.
Yes, what am I thinking? Death's Presence is a different card entirely. But
this seems very efficient. I mean, a 1/2 for 1 is already great. Being able to pump him later on in the game to make him a 4/5 with Death Touch, that seems pretty good. And then if you can consistently get it says a player lost 4 or more life. So if you happen to deal 4 damage to yourself on your turn somehow, he's going to get bigger.
The important thing to consider, though, is that it's at the end of your end step, at the beginning of your end step. So only if it's during your turn.
Yeah, so if somebody attacks you for 4 damage on their turn, this guy's not going to get bigger. But if you can somehow manipulate it so that on your turn you can pay a bunch of life or something, this is going to be great.
Let's say you're running a, what's the demon? Is the demon from... I'm really bad with names that aren't in front of me right now. It's the demon that's mythic rare from Ravnica Allegiance, who has pay 2 life to surveil 2.
Oh, yep. I know which one you're talking about, but I don't remember the name either. Nightmare Surveiller?
No.
Nope.
It's Dread
I don't
something.
remember. I'll put it in the video.
Boop.
Here.
Boop.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Okay, thank you. Gosh, we're going to... All right, okay. Why don't we move on? I'll just say Knight of the Ebon Legion is good, and I know for a fact that it's good because it worked for me in the deck I was running. So it's good in limited.
Yes, for sure.
Could be a lot of fun to run in Vampire Tribal, and just have fun. Have fun with this one. This is fun. This is a fun card.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, our next card that we're going to talk about is Legion's End. This is a sorcery for 1 in a black. Exile target creature an opponent controls with converted mana cost 2 or less, and all other creatures that player controls with the same name as that creature. Then that player reveals their hand and exiles all cards with that name from their hand and graveyard.
Oh, so much of that being going to include in any singleton format.
I mean, yeah.
Unless Pauper.
Okay,
not
sure,
Pauper.
sure.
Petitioner.
Petitioner.
Persistent
yes.
Petitioner.
Persistent Petitioners. Yeah, they are a 2-drop.
I said Pauper because I
so
once
this-
did a Persistent Petitioner Pauper deck in
Oh,
Arena. Yeah.
Fair enough. This actually, now that you pointed out, seems like direct tech against Persistent Petitioners, because it's going to get rid of all of that copy of the card that are on the battlefield and that are in your opponent's hand and graveyard. It's just going to get rid of all of them, which means that they're not going to be able to mill you out quite as quickly.
No Petitioners, no Rats, and I think the card is kind of low-key nodding at Legion Conquistador.
Yeah, I mean, it's Legion's End, so I'm guessing that it's flavored around the Vampire Legions from Ixalan. I think those are, what's being depicted in the card.
I think so. I mean, it might be a little nod to that, but the flavor text, with a single word, they were unmade. Kriena, Siege of the Bone Spire. I don't know if that's from Ixalan.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Well, either way, I think it has a lot of potential, that card, but I tend to think in singleton format. So again, situationally good, but only situationally. You better sideboard at the most.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is an interesting one. We have Rotting Regisaur. This is a 7/6 zombie dinosaur for 2 and a black.
Zombie dinosaur.
Zombie dinosaur. At the beginning of your upkeep, discard a card. That's it.
That seems like a pretty fair drawback for a 7/6 for 3 mana.
Yes, always know when to play this, though, or it'll come back to bite you. Because if you get this out and you're ready to start kicking ass with it and someone hits it with a pacifism, then you're just stuck discarding cards with no benefit of having a giant zombie dinosaur.
That would be very unfortunate.
It makes me sad.
Now that's a zombie.
Can't help but read Montress of Zargoth Fen as a little bit of, well, now that's a zombie.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, next card that we have is Scheming Symmetry. This is a sorcery for a single black. Choose 2 target players. Each of them searches their library for a card, then shuffles their library and puts that card on top of it.
Part of our 2 theme again.
Indeed. And also our goddammit Seb McKinnon.
Yeah, I was about to read the flavor text on this card and it just says, God damn it, Seb.
Yeah, no kidding. This seems like a really neat card. It's reminiscent of an old tutor called Imperial Seal, I think.
Yeah.
Which is a single black mana. You get to go looking for a card and then put it on top of your library, and then you have to, I think you lose 3 life or 2 life. So it's basically taking away you losing life to allow somebody else to also tutor for a card. Obviously, situationally not as good, because your opponent is going to be going to look for something specific to counter whatever you're doing.
Do not run this in limited. Just don't do it.
No, but I'm sure that there are going to be plenty of constructed decks that are going to be playing it and making use of it.
This is
very.
I feel like this is going to see a lot of play in black EDH decks, because you can choose it's another political maneuvering tool. You choose another player who you have an alliance with, or make a deal with them based on this card, and then you've done that. The best case scenario, you're playing Two-Headed Giant.
Sure, yeah, and then you get to choose your teammate to go looking for a card as well, and you and your teammate. So then you're just stacking both of your turns against your opposing team.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool.
Very cool Seb art. Again, I love the kind of Commedia dell'arte look to the whole thing.
Definitely, yeah.
Yes. Is it me now?
It is!
Well, cool. I get to talk about Sorin, Imperious Bloodlord.
Ooh.
This is our man Sorin, legendary planeswalker. He's got 4 loyalty. He's a 2 for 2 and a black. His +1 is target creature you control gains Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. If it's a vampire, put a +1/+1 counter on it. +1, another +1, you may sacrifice a vampire. When you do, Sorin Imperious Bloodlord deals 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life. And for -3, you may put a vampire creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Very good, only if you're doing vampires.
Definitely, yeah. This is a vampire tribal include, like, automatically.
Yeah,
basically.
he's bonkers. He's a 2.
But
he's oh my gosh, the -3 alone makes me go like, could you imagine the things you could do with him? Turn 3, you drop him and you throw down some big, massive, horrifying vampire threat for like 6-7 mana. Imagine the
Yeah,
possibilities.
absolutely. You could do Butcher of Malakir. You could do just so many different things that vampire decks like to abuse, and being able to do that on turn 3 is absolutely insane. The other abilities are also great. He goes well in an aristocrats list because of his +1 sacrifice a vampire ability. Yeah, again, if you're playing this in a vampire tribal deck, absolutely run this card because it is fantastic. In limited, if you have other vampires,
Sure.
Sure, great. If not, don't bother. Probably.
There's not a ton of vampires here. Obviously, we talked about our Vampire Knight earlier. There's Epicure of Blood as a reprint.
There was
the Bloodthirsty Aerialist.
Bloodthirsty Aerialist.
Blood Burglar, who has lifelink only on your turn. There's Barony Vampire, which is just a vanilla 3/2.
So there are some that you can use with him, but you need to be able to have them and be able to play them to get the extra benefit from him. So if in limited format, evaluate your deck, see if you have enough vampires to make it worth it. If not, probably not worth running.
If you have like 4 or more vampires, I'd consider running Sorin. Because at the very least, you could use his abilities to pump them. Even if they're not expensive vampires, you could his +1 abilities are both useful. Turning a vampire into removal is pretty nice when you need to.
Absolutely, and if nothing else, if you don't have any vampires on the field, at least his first ability is going to give something Death Touch and Lifelink, and that can be good enough for a turn.
Yes. Oh, there's a Vampire of the Dire Moon as well, a little further ahead. It's a 1/1 for 1 with Death Touch and Lifelink.
It's fantastic. It's great. It's super cheap and a great turn 1 play because it's cheap and very efficient.
And has good art.
And has great art, yeah.
All right.
Yep. Oh, it's so good.
I'd like to tell y'all about Villas, Broker of Blood. This is an 8/8 demon for 5 and 3 black. It's a flying demon. Pay 1 black and 2 life. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Whenever you lose life, draw that many cards.
That last clause really makes him pretty great because you're paying a single black mana and you have to pay 2 life to give something -1/-1. But you're paying 2 life, which means that you lost life, which means that you draw 2 cards.
So ultimately, it's very much a demon.
Very much a demon.
Sacrifice some stuff, gain some benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, passes the vanilla test with flying colors, an 8/8 for 8 with flying.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Is this the biggest flyer?
It's bigger than Sephara, which is interesting to me. You know what?
Yeah.
Imagine her and Villas being in the same deck.
Oh,
now you have an
boy.
indestructible flying demon.
Okay, that's terrifying. Yeah. So yeah, how do you feel about black there, Dave?
I'm kind of really digging black, honestly. I'm digging black for the most part. I still think blue is a little more impressive, but considering the cards that are in black that really jump out to me, like it's got some choice cards. Dread Presence really left an impression on me because I ran it. And then of course, like for limited, I still feel like blue is the most powerful color for limited right now, but black has some really choice cards in it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think a lot of the cards that are in black seem a little bit more. They're obviously very powerful, but they'd probably be really well tuned in constructed decks. Whereas in blue, a lot of the cards are very powerful, but might have a bigger impact in limited as opposed to constructed.
Yes. But that said, I see I could see the value of a lot of these cards. And there's a lot we skipped over that also have value, but obviously we're trying to keep this on more of a time crunch this time. So if you want to look yourself, hey, black is a solid color. I should know. I ran it.
Yeah, there you go. We'll of course include the link to the card image gallery in the description. So feel free to go and peruse at your own leisure.
So now we get to the Chandra color. Just Chandra.
Yes.
Every card here is Chandra.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really weird. All I see is Chandra. I'm scrolling around. Yeah, just Chandra. Her outrage, her Spitfire, her Regulator, her cat, her treason, her flame, her digger, her mage, her hauler, her sorry. I think I got lost in the Chandra.
So many Chandras.
Yeah, so this set's all about Chandra, apparently.
Yeah, so all the other colors have a single planeswalker in that monocolor, but in red we have 3. They're all different versions of Chandra. So the first one that we're going to take a look at is Chandra, Acolyte of Flame. This is a legendary planeswalker Chandra for 1 red. Enters the battlefield with 4 loyalty, has 3 abilities. 0, put a loyalty counter on each red planeswalker you control. Another 0, create 2 1/1 red elemental creature tokens. They gain haste, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. And then -2, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead.
That's neat.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that the her first ability, the 0, put a loyalty counter on each red planeswalker you control, is effectively a +1 for her, because it's going to be putting a loyalty counter on her. It's just the additional benefit of if you have other red planeswalkers, they also get loyalty.
This is cool. I like this Chandra, and I really like seeing Chandra when she's not all completely on fire. She's adorable. Look at that smirk.
Yeah, she's obviously like learning how to control her powers. It's pretty cool. It's worth noting as well that this is a rare planeswalker as opposed to the normal mythic status. And yeah, she seems really, really solid.
Yeah. So now let's talk about Chandra in her later years. This is Chandra Awakened Inferno. This is a mythic rare Chandra that is 6 loyalty for 4 and 2 red. This spell can't be countered.
Dave, are those your 5 favorite words in Magic?
I see that all the time. I built a deck around Surak Dragonclaw just because I was sick and tired of everything I tried to play being sent away by blue. Blue players, can we just all agree to voluntarily ban counters forever from everything and actually let people play the game? That would be nice.
I somehow doubt that would go over well.
No,
but
I know that.
Worth
but
a
I
shot.
can still say it anyway. As someone who likes to actually have fun.
Fair enough.
Bitter about counter spells. Each opponent. This is for +2. Each opponent gets an emblem with, at the beginning of your upkeep, this emblem deals 1 damage to you.
That's her plus
ability. You just can stack those emblems. I think they do stack. -3, Chandra Awakened Inferno deals 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. And -X, Chandra Awakened Inferno deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker. If permanent dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. This Chandra is everything and anything. This is a beast.
I mean, yeah, she is. She's a threat that is gonna stick, can't be countered, so it's gonna hit the battlefield if you can cast it. Her plus ability giving every opponent an emblem means that it's going to be a big auto-include in Commander, where you're playing with multiple opponents, because it's going to give everybody that emblem. And it's not to be understated that, it might be only 1 damage each upkeep, but if she's plussing multiple times, that could be 2, 3, 4 damage every upkeep if she just keeps plussing. So this is a threat that when it hits the battlefield needs to be answered quickly, or you're going to just burn out real fast.
The fact that she can jump onto the field and immediately do a partial board wipe, or, immediately go to 8 counters while doing this other thing. Like, I cannot get over how bonkers powerful this card is.
It's pretty nuts.
Like, this is the poster card for the set, so I get it, but holy crap.
Yeah, it's obviously very focused on just, like, straight burn, which is what Chandra's all about anyway. But, yeah, she is very, very powerful, and it's shown in flying colors here. It's pretty crazy.
I love her. Did you know one of the only pop figures I actually own is Chandra?
Oh, that's
famously.
fun.
So, and I have a cute story about that, but I don't have to tell it now.
Okay.
Why don't we talk about the next Chandra, and then I'll tell the story.
Sure, okay. So the next one, and the last Chandra Planeswalker that we have in this set, is Chandra Novice Pyromancer. This is a legendary Planeswalker Chandra, uncommon, for 3 and a red, enters with 5 loyalty, +1, elementals you control get +2/+0 until end of turn, -1, add red, -2, Chandra Novice Pyromancer deals 2 damage to any target.
Really pretty reasonable for an uncommon version of Chandra.
Definitely, and we've said a couple times, elementals are a big theme in this set, and her anthem effect on her +1, being able to buff all of your elementals, is something that you'd probably be able to make really good use of. -1 to be able to give you some extra mana is great. -2 to shock something seems fine as well. Yeah, this is a pretty solid card for an uncommon.
Yeah, definitely. I like her quite a bit. I like all these versions of Chandra. Obviously, none of them are as busted as Awakened Inferno, but hey, she's still got some growing up to do here.
Yeah, it's neat that it tells the story of how she like started off as a pyromancer and then, gained more powerful abilities, became the acolyte, and then has awakened the Inferno. It's pretty neat.
And you could tell, you kind of tell where she is on each one. Like in Novice Pyromancer, she's on Ravnica. She's on Regatha in Acolyte of Flame, and I think she's on Zendikar in Awakened Inferno, because you can see the floating rocks in the background.
That makes sense, yeah.
So the pop figure I own of Chandra, which is sitting over here right now, was actually given to me by... she's currently a story designer for Wizards of the Coast named Allison Lurs.
Ah, very
cool.
I
met her when she was just when she was still doing sort of the social media stuff for them. We happened to bump into each other at a show at Comic-Con. I didn't know who she was. She didn't know who I was. We just happened to strike up a conversation while we were waiting, and I mentioned I had gone to the Magic panel earlier. I don't know how it came up in conversation, and all of a sudden she just reaches into her bag and hands me Chandra.
That's so cool.
Sorry you didn't get to get your pop figure, because I mentioned that I'd gone up for the Q&A and it cut off just before I got there, so I didn't get a figure. I didn't go for the figure, I just wanted to ask a question. But it was so nice of her, so I've kept that Chandra to this day. Funny thing is, I met her a few years later at the same con. She remembered me, and she reached into her bag and handed me another Chandra. She just got a bag of Chandras.
Walking around with a bag of Chandras.
Hey, Allison, if you happen to be listening to this, I don't know if you will be, but if you do, thanks for the Chandra. Thanks for both
get
Chandras.
Another one in the mail.
I passed one of them along to my friend Matt, and he appreciates it.
Spread the Chandra love.
It certainly spread here.
Very cool.
All right, so I guess I'm on the next one. Hey, this is interesting. It's another Chandra card. Actually, it's not that surprising. It's Chandra's Regulator. So this is a legendary artifact for 1 and a red. It's colored artifact. Whenever you activate a loyalty ability of a Chandra Planeswalker, you may pay 1. If you do, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. I just keep thinking about Awakened Inferno. You can pay 1 and tap, discard a mountain card or a red card to draw a card.
So the pay and pitch a card to draw a card, that's pretty great.
Yeah, it's fine, honestly.
But the fact that it has a Rings of Bright Hearth type effect, specifically for Chandra Planeswalkers, but for only a single mana, is kind of insane.
A little bit.
Especially when you're looking, like you said, at Chandra Awakened Inferno, because you're giving somebody 2 emblems, so they're going to take 2 damage of their upkeep. Or you're doing 6 damage to everything that's not an elemental. Or you're doing -5 or whatever, and you're doing 10 damage split between 2 creatures if you want. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, you want to give this to any Chandra if you can, and it's awesome.
In
limited,
it's really
limited, the second ability is all right, but you really only want to run this if you have Chandra, any Chandra. But if you have at least 1 Chandra, if you have the Regulator, do it.
Definitely. Let's make a Chandra Oathbreaker deck and just burn people.
I would put in all 3 Chandras and then decide situationally which Chandra you want to use that day.
What do you mean all 3? Put in all of them.
Oh, it's just an Oathbreaker deck with every Chandra, including just in the 99, just have a bunch of Chandras.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Why not?
Put these 3 Chandras, put all the other Chandras, every Chandra. Even the one that transformed from Origins.
Absolutely.
All the Chandras.
And
every card with Chandra's blank. Oh, super thematic burn deck. That sounds awesome. All right.
I think I'm gonna brew that. We're gonna talk.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about that for sure. Awesome. Okay. Next we're gonna talk about Dragon Mage. How the mighty have fallen. This is a dragon wizard at uncommon when it was once a rare and is a reprint. It's a 5/5 for 5 and 2 red. Flying. Whenever Dragon Mage deals combat damage to a player, each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards.
Yeah, it's a wheel effect.
It's neat.
Dragon
of the Wheel. Who needs
Yeah.
Magus of when you have
Um,
Dragon of?
It is worth noting, because I have made this mistake, that it does not make you wheel until it deals combat damage. So if you see it on the stack, don't freak out quite yet. I have made that mistake. It is embarrassing. But a 5/5 flyer for 7 is, decent. And then being able to pitch your hand to draw 7 fresh cards is situationally a game winner, basically.
Yep.
So if you can take advantage of this, absolutely.
That
play
bulky
it.
dragon body is certainly a nice thing to have, even if you're not trying to pitch your hand.
Yeah.
Plus, it's a
exactly.
wizard, and I know there's some wizard tribal out there, so that could be fun.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of
Oh
dragons,
boy! So we have our big red legend, right?
yes, we do. This is Drakuseth, Maw of Flames.
Whoa.
This is a 7/7 legendary creature dragon for 4 red, red, red. It has flying, and whenever Drakuseth, Maw of Flames attacks, it deals 4 damage to any target and 3 damage to each of up to 2 other targets.
Oh man!
Wow.
This guy.
This guy burns.
Okay, so it comes out, it flies around, it sets everything on fire.
Yeah.
Everything. You're doing,
Because
obviously, not only are you doing 7 damage in the air to whatever is unfortunate enough to cross its path, but you're also doing spread around 10 damage
10
with
damage.
each attack. Like, I can't get over how cool this dragon is.
it is very, very powerful. And Dragon Tribal is already a huge archetype in a lot of different places, and I'm sure that this is just going to be an auto-include in a lot of different decks. Because it does exactly what you want dragons to do, which is set things on fire and kill
I
them.
want to see this in Lathless the Dragon Queen from M19, which is
Ooh.
technically still standard legal right now. You've got M19 and M20 concurrent.
Ooh,
So at this
that's
rare
cool.
glimmering moment in time,
Dragon Tribal deck now.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of tribes I really like, here's Glinthorn Buccaneer.
It's another pirate.
Yay! Keep printing pirates, Wizards. It's a Minotaur pirate, but it's not Angraf.
No, interesting.
2/4 for 1 and 2 red. He has haste. Whenever you discard a card, Glinthorn Buccaneer deals 1 damage to each opponent. You can pay 1 and a red to discard a card, draw a card. Activate this ability only if Glinthorn Buccaneer is attacking. Now, this is interesting because I've seen this combo with another couple of cards and be absolutely painful to deal with.
Really? Okay. Anything specifically?
I'm trying to remember because, like, I faced this down in a limited environment, and there was something that made the. You know what it was? It was this and Rotting Regisaur.
Ooh, it's just making you discard every turn. Yeah.
So the two of them work together to just turn the pitch into the graveyard from your hand into 1 damage every upkeep, basically.
Yeah, for sure. It could also work with Tempsis the All-Seeing if you activate the loot ability. Yeah, there's lots of interesting synergies with this guy.
It's cool, and again, it's another pirate, and probably one I'll consider for Beckett Brass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Seems like a pretty solid pirate. Next card is another goblin. We have Goblin Ringleader. This is a 2/2 goblin for 3 and a red. It has haste. When Goblin Ringleader enters the battlefield, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all goblin cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Now, Dave, I know that one of your pet decks is your Goblin Tribal EDH deck. Do you think that this is something that would be worth an include in there?
It would be worth an include, except it's already in there.
Is
This
this
is a reprint, my friend.
Oh my! I'm so taken aback. I did not realize.
It comes to us actually all the way from Apocalypse.
Wow, that's a real.
Yeah, no, it's got new art, which is part of the reason that. Well, I mean, this art was done a little while ago, but this is a reprint. But don't worry, I think it's a solid reprint because there's enough goblins in this set to make it work. There's enough goblins in standard right now to make it work anyway. So, I mean, you could be running this guy and dig and find, Krenko, Tin Street Kingpin.
Okay, yeah.
You could
sure.
find Siege Gang Commander. You could find... there's all manner of cool stuff. It's nice to see him reunited with his old friend, Siege Gang Commander.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair.
no, this is a great card and has always been a staple of my Goblin deck. And so, anytime I see his scowl, I feel a little warm flutter inside at my favorite green skin tribe, the OG tribe, if you
Oh
will.
yeah. Very much so, yeah. I feel a little embarrassed. I do not know enough about the Goblin tribe, so I will continue to defer to you when it comes to all things
Well,
Goblin.
I'm glad to know I'm a Goblin expert. That amounts to something, I'm sure. There was a short story in the Colors of Magic about these. It's just a series of notes from these two scholars, and one of them is writing a very high end thing about Goblin culture. And
Okay.
it's the two scholars having notes in margin about one of them is like, oh, here you could see all the complicated rituals that they did. And the other person's like, they just got drunk and played like exploding volleyball. Like, what are you talking about? It's a really
That's
good
pretty
short
great.
story. Um,
I do love how wacky all the goblins in Magic are.
Yeah, the goblins are I think nothing has defined, in my opinion, fantasy goblins in modern fantasy in quite the same way as Magic has. Like Magic's goblins are number one, I think, in my mind when I think of goblins synonymously. Like I just think of Magic's goblins. The next thing I think of is maybe Pathfinder's goblins.
Sure, yeah.
But even so, speaking of goblins, I added this one late because I think it's a good one at common. This is Goblin Smuggler. This is a
Oh, okay.
this is a 2/2 Goblin Rogue for 2 and a red. He has haste, and you can tap it to make another target creature with power 2 or less unblockable for a turn.
Wow, okay. Yes, that's pretty awesome. You can make that happen the turn that he comes
Yeah.
out.
So imagine like you're doing red black, and you throw him down, and you tap down for Knight of the Ebon Legion.
Oh yeah,
And
there
then you
go.
pump Knight of the
Just
Ebon
getting
Legion.
it after he gets the unblockable clause. Yeah, okay. So yeah, there is some interesting ways that you can take advantage of that.
I just think it's one of the I think it's one of the primo red commons common creatures in this set. Actually, you know what's funny is I'm looking at our list that we picked out, and I think we both did this unconsciously. We mostly grabbed creatures.
That's fair. I mean, yeah,
Creatures are fun.
yeah, creatures are fun. There have obviously been a couple of standout other cards,
yeah.
but yeah, I think by and large that kind of speaks to the type of players that
Indeed,
we are.
indeed. Anyway, I just wanted to give some lip service to Goblin Smuggler because I think it's a neat little card, has fun flavor, and has some capacity for neat combat tricks.
I do love the artwork. The little goblin hiding in the sack, and the other one just being like, "Yes, I am nothing but a humble traveler."
I have no taste for sneakery nor thiefiness.
Yeah,
It's very good. Hey,
yeah. Next card.
yes.
Yes. We have another dinosaur.
Ooh.
Who everybody do the dinosaur? We have Marauding Raptor. This is a 2/3 dinosaur for 1 and a red, which is already great.
I'm doing the dinosaur over here. I'm walking the dinosaur.
Good, I'm glad. Excellent. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's already great. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Marauding Raptor deals 2 damage to it. If a dinosaur is dealt damage this way, Marauding Raptor gets +2/+0 until end of
You know what I
turn.
just realized? You could
What's
go
that?
infinite with Polyraptor.
Oh.
Because I was thinking about
My.
Enrage, because this card is designed to enable Enrage with other dinosaurs. It's supposed
Sure
to be a
is.
drawback. Like you think about it like this, like everything costs 1 less, but it's gonna make you damage everything you potentially try to play. But this thing is before Exelon rotates out of standard, it's gonna get the most out of its fellow dinosaurs, and I just realized there's so many ways you could combo this really effectively, especially with the high toughness dinosaurs. And to me, the craziest one is having Marauding Raptor out when you cast Polyraptor, and you go infinite, because every new copy of Polyraptor that enters the battlefield gets hit by the Raptor, by Marauding Raptor, thereby spawning a new Polyraptor token.
Oh boy, you're right. Oh, that's pretty crazy. Do we have anything in standard right now that's like anytime a creature enters the battlefield, deal 1 damage or anything
I
like
can't
that?
think of it off the top of my head. There probably is something
Oh.
like that. I mean, if you give everything haste, that's one thing.
Yeah, man, yeah, ooh, that's a pretty spicy little standard deck you got going there.
I just want you to keep that red-green standard combo in mind as we look ahead to see if there's any cards that take advantage of creatures entering the battlefield or something like that, because honestly, that's stupid. It's stupid how much that can work.
Yeah, wow, well done. Look at you. You're pointing out all of these really intuitive, interesting combos. I'm very
Well, I mean,
impressed.
I've been playing the game for a while, and I may not always remember the names of cards or the specifics, but Magic is a complicated game, and when you play it this long, you kind of, these things eventually become like second nature.
That's fair.
Well, thank you, though. I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah, of course. So what do we have
I
next?
believe we have another dragon.
Oh, more Dargans.
This is Rapacious Dragon. It's a 3/3 for 4 and a red. Flying, when Rapacious Dragon enters the battlefield, create 2 treasure tokens. I see nothing but upside with this card.
Yeah, that seems pretty solid. It's a decent sized flyer, gets you some extra mana for your following turn. Yeah, seems
The
really
way
solid.
I see it, you're effectively doing a 3/3 with flying for 3 mana. Because you're replacing 2 of the mana you spent with 2 treasure tokens.
That's fair. Yeah, it's a little bit of like a not a discount, but a rebate.
Yeah, it's a nice artifact rebate.
Yeah, pretty cool. Next card that we wanted to talk about is Repeated Reverberation. This is an instant for 2 red. When you next cast an instant spell, cast a sorcery spell, or activate a loyalty ability this turn, copy that spell or ability twice. You may choose new targets for the copies. So this is another one of the dual cycle,
Yep.
right?
I do so love how red has this kind of like slice of blue where it gets to do other weird things with instant sorceries, but it's never like counter. It's always like copy or duplicate or something bizarre, redirect or something like that. Like, it's interesting.
Right. Yeah, it's not negating the power there. It's just redirecting it for your own benefit. Which is, very cool. I think this is a pretty solid card. The fact that you're able to copy loyalty abilities is kind of nuts.
Mm-hmm.
If you copy the loyalty abilities, does the Planeswalker get the extra loyalty, or is it just the ability that gets copied?
I think you just copy the ability, not the loyalty itself.
Right.
Unless it's ability that generates loyalty. Like, say, Chandra's.
Oh, right. Which is put a loyalty counter on every red Planeswalker.
So you
Okay, that's fair.
Real value right there. It's a very good card.
Yeah, very, very cool.
I personally have run afoul of this next one a couple times. This is Scampering Scorcher. This is a primo uncommon in red. It's a 1/1 elemental for 3 and a red. Whenever Scampering Scorcher enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 red elemental creature tokens. Elementals you control gain haste until end of turn.
So it's 3 power and 3 toughness on 3 bodies with haste.
For 4.
Hey.
Indeed.
Yeah, that could be a real beating.
I think my favorite thing about this card, though, is I love the art by Zoltan Boros.
Zoltan Boros, yeah, this is really, really cool art. You can really feel they look like magma dinosaurs.
Oh, they do.
Basically. And they're just coming at you, and there's a bunch of them, and they're all on fire, and it's gonna hurt.
It's gonna hurt real bad.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Me too.
Next card that we have is Thunderkin Awakener. This is a 1/2 elemental shaman for 1 and a red. It has haste, and whenever Thunderkin Awakener attacks, choose target elemental creature card in your graveyard with toughness less than Thunderkin Awakener's toughness. Return that card to the battlefield tapped and attacking. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step.
This card is very much a limited bomb if you can build around it.
Obviously, the best way to take advantage of it would be to increase the toughness so that you can get some bigger stuff back. But you could get something like Lightning Elemental or something like big that only has 1 toughness but has a lot of power, and then you can just go in and smack people right in the face.
It's great because it crosses color boundaries too. You can grab that Cloud Sprite from earlier and have a flying attacker that lets you draw a card essentially for free.
There you go. Yeah,
you can grab Scampering Scorcher and have suddenly 3 elementals running at your opponent, and only one of them gets exiled.
There you go. That's pretty awesome.
It's all around. Even without the buff, it's already got a decent. It's already got a decent amount of elementals it can grab from, as long as the toughness is.
Yeah, I think seems like a really solid card and in limited, and there's definitely ways that you could build around it in constructed that could take even more advantage of it.
It's great. I think this is a good card, and I like hasty red dudes anyway.
Yeah, no kidding.
Speaking of weird red dudes, this is Unchained Berserker, who I've added a little bit last minute. This is a human Berserker who's a 1/1 for 1 and a red. He's got protection from white. Unchained Berserker gets +2/+0 as long as it's attacking. Having a 3/1 with protection is just a nice little upside, and I don't know. I just kind of like him.
Yeah, I think he seems like a pretty solid beater in red. Dropping him on turn 2 and then attacking for 3 on turn 3 seems really good. If you're going up against white, obviously this is going to be even better because it's going to be able to get in without being blocked. Yeah, seems like a pretty solid red card.
Plus, I mean, he's Theron.
That's true. Yeah, Theros is strong here in Magic 20.
It sure is. Oh man, I gotta say, I think red and blue are the colors that are impressing me the most.
There's a lot of really cool stuff in there for sure. I love this, little story cycle of the Chandra cards. Her regulator. There's a couple other Chandra specific cards that we didn't really talk about. But then, big dragons, lots of goblins, cool dinosaurs, lots of really cool stuff in here. Lots of, pretty big splashy creatures that are going to do a lot of damage. And that's exactly what red likes.
Exactly. So red is already on track to be pretty good. And even scanning through some of the reprints and some of the other odd cards we didn't mention yet, there's just some powerful things in red.
Definitely.
Let's wrap up with green. Next on our list, we have Brightwood Tracker. This is a Elf Scout. It's a 2/4. That's for 3 and a green. You can pay 5 and a green and tap. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Yeah, so late game, this has the ability to pay off, or with ramp, it has the ability to pay off. But you're also getting a 2/4 body for 4, which is not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It definitely shores up the ground pretty well. And yeah, I've played a couple of rounds in Arena where you don't have anything else to do on your turn except activate this guy, and then you end up finding another threat to put onto the board, which is always great.
Yeah. I'd say strong card for green, especially green at common. So yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. Next card that we have is Elvish Reclaimer. This is a 1/2 Elf Warrior. It is rare, costs a single green mana. Elvish Reclaimer gets +2/+2 as long as there are 3 or more land cards in your graveyard. You can pay 2, tap, and sacrifice a land to search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. This is really, really cool. Perhaps not super busted in Limited, but there are so many Lands Matters decks that are flying around in constructed formats, in Commander, Highlander, Modern, Legacy formats. This seems like it's going to be pretty huge, mostly because you are allowed to go in searching for any land, not just basics.
Turn your basics or your junk lands into other lands. It not only does mana fixing, but does deck filtering. It thins your deck out. I think this card is absolutely phenomenal for what it is.
Yeah, it really reminds me of Knight of the Reliquary. Maybe probably not to that same power level because that card is pretty insane.
Yeah.
But very similar design and definitely very strong in the right sort of deck design.
Yeah. This card is cool, and I could see a lot of uses for it in other formats. Already got the gears turning in my head just thinking about the efficiency of this particular creature. So yeah,
for sure. I have a Gitrog monster commander deck, and he would slot perfectly into that sort of build.
Well, there you go. Pick him up as a single, and he and Gitrog will get along very well.
Mm-hmm.
Next is arguably the cutest card in the entire set.
Mm-hmm.
This is Ferocious Pup.
He's a pupper.
Look at that pupper. It's a 0/1 wolf for 2 and a green. Its ability is when Ferocious Pup enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Its alternate ability is if Ferocious Pup dies, everyone loses the game.
Yeah, everybody, because everybody is so sad. He's a little puppy.
I can't I can't. I don't think I can play with this card.
I know.
I can't
It's so
picture.
cute.
It's what's that saying that's going around? If anything happens to this, I would burn down the whole world and then kill myself.
Yes. It is very, very cute, and it's also very efficient. You get two bodies, and it's pretty cheap. It's a pretty good common for sure. You'll probably be able to pick up quite a few of these. It's a really cool card for sure.
Get mad. Make your opponent here just by sheer dint of having this on the field. Like your opponent won't want to attack you because you might be an absolute monster and try and chump it with the puppy.
Right, and then
it's a
they
puppy
would
chump.
just feel bad. Yeah.
Everybody should feel awful if they do anything bad to this adorable wolf pup.
So cute.
Just don't do it.
Okay, moving on. Next card we have is Gargos, Vicious Watcher. This is an 8/7 legendary creature Hydra. That's right, a legendary Hydra.
Yep.
For 3 green, green, green. It has Vigilance. Hydra spells you cast cost 4 less to cast.
Whoa.
And whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, Gargos, Vicious Watcher, fights up to 1 target creature you don't control.
Wow.
So many Hydras require like X in the cost,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can like variably make them as big as you would like them to be. Having a Hydra Lord that discounts that X cost by 4 to basically give those Hydras 4 extra power and toughness for free is just plain nuts. And the extra bonus where every time a creature you control becomes targeted, not just by your opponent, but even by yourself, if you have pump spells or something, and then he goes and fights something, really, really awesome card.
Very, very awesome card. Hydra Lord! I just love the fact that we have a Hydra Lord. This is a deck that a lot of people will probably have fun with. Now, keep in mind, if it reduces the cost by 4, if there's any Hydras with X costs, that you're going to have to keep that in mind. It doesn't really affect that part of it, unless, of course, it's got a generic cost attached to it as well, because sometimes you get like X, then 4, then like 2 green or something like that, you know?
Okay, so I guess this is a rules clarification even for myself. If there is an X cost, and this says it costs 4 generic less to cast, does that not mean that you have like automatically pumped 4 into the X?
I don't think so. I'd have to check against that, but yeah, in my mind, that doesn't affect anything that costs X.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. But there's enough expensive Hydras out there that I think this is going to be very, very good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
and it could be wrong. If it does automatically pump each Hydra you cast by 4, then that's insane.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be absolutely broken.
Yeah. But Gargos is, I think, one of the most in my opinion, one of the most powerful legends in this set. Not even if you're not doing the Hydra thing, you're getting an 8/7 with Vigilance for 6 mana that lets you fight stuff every time you cast it with a targeted spell. And there's a lot of, if you're going red-green, there's a lot of or even red-green-white. If you're going Naya, you could be pumping stuff like there's no tomorrow. Like Gargos is a house.
Yeah,
Gargos
absolutely.
is just an absolute brick house of power and is a phenomenal card.
Yeah, they really knocked it out of the park with this one. It's really solid.
Oh, for sure. Let's see. Next on our list, we're skipping over quite a few. Normally we'd pay some lip service to, but hey, we've been doing this for a bit. I want to keep moving.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Night Pack Ambusher.
Ooh.
This is a 4/4 wolf for 2 and 2 green. It has flash. Other wolves and werewolves you control get +1/+1. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't cast a spell this turn, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. Wolf Lord.
Werewolf Lord.
Both Lord, and there's no werewolves anywhere to be found in this set.
No, but it's pretty awesome that that it's included. And I think the fact that it's indicating, it's buffing both wolves and werewolves makes me think that if the rumors are true, the next set that we're going to, Waldheim, is like Viking themed. We might end up finding some Viking werewolves, which I think would be pretty sweet.
I would really like that. Oh man, snow werewolves.
Oh,
They transform and they're snow creatures.
oh man, no, it's just like everything I want on a card.
Man, I look. This wouldn't be the first time Magic's done a foray into like sort of Norse mythology. They kind of did that back with Ice Age.
That's fair. Yeah.
But that was on Dominaria when, during a certain a certain period of its time. I'd like to see a return to that, and they obviously can't do it with Dominaria again. So, looks like we're off to Kaldheim.
It would be pretty neat if that theory is correct, if we were seeing werewolves somewhere other than on Innistrad.
Yeah.
And seeing how they kind of interact in a place that's not all gothic horror.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be really cool. This card is great though, and I'm definitely thinking of it like I think decent and limited with enough puppies. You can buff your puppy with it, which is nice.
Yep.
And you can constantly create wolf tokens, and it definitely wants you to do the whole hey don't cast spells so your werewolves don't transform back.
Yeah,
a la Innistrad, classic Innistrad werewolves. But since you and I are both working on Arlen Cord themed Oathbreaker decks, this is a card that's an auto include, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Being like giving that buff to all of your werewolves and any incidental wolves that you might have brought along, and sometimes you have to skip your turn just so you can transform your werewolves, and having this on the battlefield to give you that extra, what would effectively be a 3/3 creature, as like an extra benefit for skipping your turn. Yeah, solid card.
Solid.
And even in limited, it's just great all around. A 4/4 for 4 with flash that could sometimes buff some other creatures and sometimes give you a creature token. Yeah, solid. Like really, really awesome rare, and yeah.
Another one of those cards I really want to get my hands on.
Yes.
I mean, it's a 4/4 for 4 again, which is also pretty nice too, with flash.
Yeah, so you can surprise someone because it's an ambusher. So,
Haha!
I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, so next card that we were going to talk about is Overgrowth Elemental. This is a 3/2 elemental for 2 and a green. When Overgrowth Elemental enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on another target elemental you control. Whenever another creature you control dies, you gain 1 life. If that creature was an elemental, put a +1/+1 counter on Overgrowth Elemental.
This card feels so much like Wildgrowth Walker.
Yeah, very much. The design of the, like, what I assume is the Overgrowth Elemental kind of reminds me of Renin 6, the new Planeswalker that we saw in Modern Horizons.
Oh.
Looks kind of like there's somebody inside that tree elemental thingy, which is how Renin 6 was designed. But yeah, mechanically, I think this is a pretty solid card. In, the last week or so, it's become pretty evident that Teamer Elementals is a really strong archetype.
Yes.
In M20.
Mm-hmm.
So this seems like a piece that would slot perfectly into that sort of deck, because you're buffing your other elementals. If something dies, you gain life, and if all of the rest of your creatures are elementals, then Overgrowth Elemental is just going to keep getting bigger, and then it's a threat that your opponent's going to have to deal with real fast.
Mm-hmm. You want to make sure, if you have a sack outlet for a bunch of this is a lot of fun. You're running, like, even if it's not an elemental deck, if you're running a Saproling deck, or something along those lines, black, I could see black-green elementals with a sacrifice theme. Definitely Teamer Elementals is where this is going to thrive. I'm already thinking of other alternate brews you could do with this thing, because it's a really good uncommon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So up next we have Season of Growth. This is a enchantment for 1 and a green. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. This card wants to be friends with Gargos.
Very much so, yeah. Little incidental scry 1 every time something enters the battlefield can be really good in token designs. And then, anytime you try to buff your creatures, maybe cast an enchantment on them, or like an aura or something like that, you get to do some incidental card draw. Seems pretty solid. Maybe not the best in a limited environment where, you're not going to make use of that second clause a lot of the time, but if you can, then it's just, yeah.
Well, I would argue it's actually pretty good, because, like, one of the reasons I considered doing green instead of blue in the deck I ran was because I opened one of these and I looked at it and thought, just having that scry 1 for every time you cast a creature spell is really nice.
Yeah, being able to filter your draws is not to be understated, for sure.
Right, and there's just enough targeting that I think you can plan around a Season of Growth. I think it's a very powerful card for the amount of mana you're paying for it, and I think good and limited, and has potential for some fun use in certain specific deck builds.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I would have to agree.
Thank you.
So the next card we were going to talk about is Shared Summons, which I believe is the last in this little series of spells, monocolored spells that care about 2 things. Shared Summons is an instant for 3 green. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards with different names, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. So efficient, nice way to use mana on your opponent's turn. 5 mana, it means it's going to be a little bit later in the game, but being able to go looking for your 2 biggest creatures without any limitations on what those creatures are. It doesn't have to be a specific color or anything, just as long as they're 2 different creatures. Seems like a pretty solid card.
I would say this card is busted, but I've seen Tooth and Nail.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
So, I mean, honestly, this is really good. Like, it's not busted good, but it's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being able to go looking for any card is great, and being able to go looking for 2 cards is super solid. This is obviously going to see a lot of play in green commander decks where it's a singleton format, so any 2 creatures you're looking for are going to have different names anyway. I think it's going to see a lot of play in those larger singleton formats, and
right.
It's going to be around for a while.
It is. I mean, it's a tutor, and it's instant speed tutor. That's pretty good in my book.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
I think Shared Summons is almost ridiculously good. So
yeah, it's really, really good.
Right. All right. Next up, we have Shifting Ceratops. This is a 5/4 dinosaur for 2 and 2 green. This spell can't be countered. My 5 favorite words once again. And it's got protection from blue. You can pay 1 green. Shifting Ceratops gains your choice of reach, trample, or haste until end of turn. Wow.
Yeah, this is a beater.
Yeah. Okay. It's an uncounterable 5/4 for 4 mana. With attack on ability that's very nice.
Yeah, for sure. The activated ability where you can give it reach, trample, or haste, it kind of reminds me of Thornling, or like any of the Lings.
It does have a little bit of a Ling vibe, huh?
Yeah, just where it has all those different abilities where you can tap mana to give it something else. Yeah, it's dinosaur, which is awesome, and it has enough of its own flavor that it stands alone for sure.
So, leaving this dinosaur behind, next up, oldie but goodie, Thrashing Brontodon.
Hey.
So this is a 3/4 dinosaur for 1 and 2 green. Pay 1 and sacrifice Thrashing Brontodon to destroy target artifact or enchantment. It gets work done. It's a solid body that lets you deal with something obnoxious on your opponent's end of the field.
Mm-hmm. It is a really, really well-designed card, and I think it definitely shows in how many times they're reprinting it since it was first introduced.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's great. Being able to have this big beater and then cash it in later if you need to is exactly what you want in a creature like this.
Oh yeah. Plus, fun story, I opened this one in foil.
Ooh, cool.
So this is it looks neat in foil.
Yeah. I'd believe it. Okay. Next card that we're going to talk about is our last Planeswalker from the set. We have Vivian, Arcbow Ranger. This is a legendary Planeswalker. Vivian enters the battlefield with 4 loyalty and costs 1 green. So quite intensive on green.
Mm-hmm.
Has 3 abilities. +1. Distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among up to 2 target creatures. They gain trample until end of turn. -3. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or Planeswalker. And then -5, you may choose a creature card you own from outside the game, reveal it, and put it into your hand.
Have a sideboard ready.
Yeah, exactly. These sort of like wish effects are always kind of funny because in any sanctioned type events, the only things that you can pull from are cards in your sideboard. But, if you're playing kitchen table Magic, you can go and get whatever you want.
Yeah.
But overall, I think that she seems okay. Her +1, putting out some counters on up to 2 things and giving them trample is, decent.
Mm-hmm.
Her middle ability, where she makes a creature you control deal damage to target creature or planeswalker is neat. It's neat that you can target your opponent's planeswalkers.
Yeah.
We don't see that ability stapled onto like a deal damage effect that often.
Mm-hmm. I do enjoy a one-sided punch.
Yeah.
When you can deal it to your opponent with one of your creatures.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, overall, I don't know. I'm not super impressed with her, but I think that she's definitely pretty cool.
Yeah, I think some of the other incarnations of Vivian are a little more impressive to me, but I think this is a solid card anyway. I think that grabbing something from outside the game has the potential to be really interesting if you can get it that far. It'll only take you 3 turns to do it.
It's true. Yeah.
Or wait, not even 3 turns.
You could do it on the next turn if you're okay with losing her.
Right, if you wanted to keep Vivian alive. I think that's the main thing that's interesting to me. She starts she's got a interesting converted mana cost, but the fact she starts with 4 loyalty is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Up there pretty high.
Right. So I get to talk about Voracious Hydra, yes?
Yeah.
Yes, this is a 0/1 Hydra. That's for X and 2 green. It has trample, and it enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. When Voracious Hydra enters the battlefild, choose 1. Double the number of +1/+1 counters on Voracious Hydra, or Voracious Hydra fights target creature you don't control.
Oh, boy.
Well, I mean, if the Gargos thing is discounting it 4, then you're automatically getting like a 4/5 or potentially an 8/10.
Yeah, I'm checking on the Gargos ruling on Gatherer because I want to know this for sure.
Okay.
So if a spell has X in its mana cost, you choose the value for X before applying cost reductions.
Oh.
For example, if you cast a Hydra spell with mana cost X green and choose for X to be 6, you would only pay 2 green.
That is busted. Okay.
Yeah,
well, that clears a lot of. That makes Gargos absolutely friggin' bonkers.
Yeah. If you want to play a Hydra tribal deck,
yes,
go do it now.
I want it. Oh my god, I want it. I want to do mono green Hydras now, like immediately.
Oh, there's gonna be so many crazy decks.
Look at this. Oh, and by the way, I love the art on this card. I thought Gargos was cool, but I don't know what it is about Wayne Reynolds, but he can do like draconic faces like really interestingly, and I've always been a fan of his style, and I think this art is really good.
It is really excellent. The lighting coming out from their mouths and all the snarling and everything, it's very evocative and a little bit terrifying.
Yeah. This is really good, and especially in conjunction with Gargos.
Yeah, for sure. But even if you don't have Gargos, it's still a great bomb for green. It's a big dumb creature that can be massive.
It does what green does best.
Exactly, which is hit people in the face real hard.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, moving on. Last card that we were going to talk about in green is Woodland Champion. This is a 2/2 Elf Scout for 1 and a green. Whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, put that many +1/+1 counters on Woodland Champion. So the important thing that I had to note when I was reading this card the first time is that it's not creature tokens. It's any tokens. So that could be gold, treasure, clue tokens, any number of things. And it would also count your creature tokens if you were running any of those as well. So this, potentially in the right deck, could end up being massive very, very fast.
That is true. For the cost and with the right build, I think it has a lot of potential.
Definitely. And again, this is not an elemental by itself, but there are a lot of elemental cards in red and in green, I think, that produce tokens as well. So even though this isn't an elemental, I've seen it been used very, very well in that sort of elemental archetype.
Oh yeah. This is awesome. Woodland Champion has some real potential, and I want to see it unlocked as we go further.
definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's green. What do you think, Dave?
Contender for, I think, for me personally, one of the more exciting colors in this set.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think red, blue, and green, and that makes sense because Temur is such a strong archetype. They are all, I think, the really solid colors this set. All the cards we've read in green have impressed me to a degree, and just by dint of having Gargos, just by Gargos himself, that's like already making green an exceptional color, I should say. But honestly, Ferocious Pup is kind of what tips it over the edge for me.
No, who doesn't love a puppy?
People with no souls.
Yeah, correct.
Well, now we're at the end of Wooburg, so let's talk about the multicolored.
Yes, let's.
All right, we're actually going to talk about every multicolored card in here because there's not so many that I think it would take a long time.
No, but they're all worth talking about, I think, because first off, they're all new cards.
Yeah,
none of them are reprints, and all of them are pretty awesome, and you'll see why when we're talking about them.
Right, they all support their archetype. So I mean, at the very beginning, we'll talk about Corpse Knight. This is a 2/2 zombie knight for a white and a black. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. So it's a bear with a inverse a Johnny's Welcome on it.
Right. It goes perfectly into that sort of small token life gain deck where you're getting lots of life and you're draining your opponents for little bits at a time.
Yeah.
It is also important to note about this card, if you do pull it in one of your packs, it has been found that some copies of this card have been misprinted as a 2/3. It is a 2/2. So even if you manage to pull a copy that says 2/3 for whatever reason,
hold on to it because it might have value down the line.
Sure, yeah. Misprints generally do have extra value over the normal cards. But if you want to play it in whatever format or like whatever tournament or sanctioned event that you're playing in, just be cognizant that it is a 2/2 and judges will rule as such.
Yes.
So,
they made that clear to me when I did pre-release that if you open a Corpse Knight and it's a 2/3, just remember it's actually a 2/2.
Did anyone at your event have one?
No, not that I saw.
Interesting. So I wonder how widespread the misprinting actually was.
Well, it made enough of a deal that they're like, look, for reals though, it's not a 2/3. That would be stupid. That would make this card absolutely broken.
It would, yeah. It would be pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Moving along, so next card that we have is Creeping Trailblazer. This is a 2/2 elemental for red-green. Other elementals you control get +1/+0. And then as an activated ability, you can pay 2 red-green. Creeping Trailblazer gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each elemental you control.
I've run afoul of this a couple times, and it's very powerful.
It certainly looks it. Again, goes really well into that elemental archetype, and if you can manage to amass a bunch of elementals, this is going to get massive very fast.
Well, I mean, hey, that's the goal. Get a lot of elementals, hit people really hard with a lot of elementals.
Yeah, definitely.
And with red and green, you'll have excess mana to burn to do this sort of thing, so heck yeah.
Absolutely.
Next up is Empyrean Eagle. This is a 2/3 bird spirit for 1, a white and a green. It has flying, and other creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. Hey, a flying lord.
Yeah. Seems like a pretty solid build overall. Do you think this would get a spot in your Asperia deck?
I think it would. I'd probably slot out a different card for it, but it would go up there with Thunder Drake.
Sure,
or not Thunder Drake. The one that has flash.
Oh yes. Thunder something.
Thunder Kite, Thunder Bite, Underbite. Thunderclap Wyvern. That's what it was.
Ah, right.
Okay, there we go. I feel better now.
We got there.
It costs 1 more than the Empyrean Eagle, but it has flash as a sort of why it costs 1 more.
Does it have the same body as well?
Yeah, it's a 2/3.
Okay.
This one's just a Drake though.
Interesting.
I'll just say Empyrean Eagle is definitely going in Asperia. I want to have those pumps where I can. I've already put a couple of choice flyers and maybe a copy of Winged Words in there because I can. So yeah.
Awesome. Cool. We'll take a look at Iron Root Warlord. This is a X5 tree folk soldier for 1 green and white. Iron Root Warlord's power is equal to the number of creatures you control. And then as an activated ability, you can pay 3 green and white to create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So the power on this creature will continually change as you play more creatures and as they die. If you play him out into an empty field, he's still going to be a 1/5 for 3 because he counts himself. And then the activated ability, being able to produce more creature tokens later on, is pretty great, specifically in Selesnya, where you're looking at token-centric deck designs. But in a limited environment, something like this is probably going to make a pretty big impact on the board.
Yes, it is. This is a great card. And again, having a big toughness for 3 power is actually pretty nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have the first of the Wedge Legends. This is Kalia, Zenith Seeker.
She's back.
Yep, she's a legendary human cleric, a 3/3 for a red, a white, and a black. She has flying and vigilance. When Kalia Zenith Seeker enters the battlefield, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal an angel card, a demon card, and or a dragon card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool. There's lots of angels in white. There's not very many demons, and there are a fair number of dragons in M20. So if you're running white and red and you have a bunch of angels and dragons and you manage to pull her, then it would be definitely worth splashing black, I think, to play her. Otherwise, probably not the best card for limited because it's pretty intensive in 3 different colors.
Even if you're getting a 3/3 body with flying and vigilance.
Yeah, it's pretty intensive, and it's a cool card, but maybe not best for limited. But I could see this being played a lot in EDH or other sorts of formats like that.
Yeah, I could see it too. I don't know if it'd be the general, depending on how you stuff your deck, but I could actually see her being included in a Kalia deck herself.
For sure.
Kalia the Vast.
Kalia the Vast as your commander, you could definitely throw this in as an extra include, and then you just have some extra value from an additional version of Kalia in there.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Next card that we have is another one of the new Wedge Legends. We have Kethis, the Hidden Hand. This is a 3/4 legendary creature elf advisor for white, black, green. Legendary spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And then it has an activated ability of exile 2 legendary creatures from your graveyard. Until end of turn, each legendary card in your graveyard gains, you may play this card from your graveyard.
He Yawgmoth bargains your legendary cards.
He does, which is very interesting.
Yeah. This card has almost 0 impact on limited. I would not run this. And I even opened a copy, and I was looking at him and going, I just can't use it. I just can't use it in sealed because I don't have enough good legendary stuff, even in his colors. Yeah,
honestly, there's not that much that limited is such a hit and miss sort of format when it comes to those sorts of such specific stuff as this, where you're looking for specifically legendary creatures. When at most you'll probably get in a sealed event you would have 7 rares. So at most, besides him, you'd have 6 other legendary cards. Not worth running in limited, but it definitely gets the brewing part of my brain churning to try and figure out a way to use him in a commander deck.
I could tell you where I'd use him right now.
Okay.
In a Sisay Weatherlight Captain.
Ooh, where you just keep going looking for legendary cards.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
Pull him out, start reducing costs, and then there you go. He's a 3/4 for 3 that has that automatically. So in Commander, in other legendary formats, like formats that care about legends, he's going to be very good. I think. Definitely. But I would definitely run him in I do kind of want to do a Sisay Weatherlight Captain deck. I mean, considering we talked about it back during Modern Horizons, like that's been on my mind because I do love my General Tazri deck for the same reason.
Sure.
Just having a theme based around 5 colors. So yeah, Kethis will be included in that deck if I ever build it.
Yeah, seems really, really cool. You have to keep us updated on how that's going.
I will. I have so many ideas and then I just never do them.
Well, yeah, I'm with you there.
Mm-hmm. Next, we have Kaikar, Wind's Fury. This is a legendary bird wizard that's 3/3 for one white or one blue, red, white. He has flying. It has flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Sacrifice a spirit. Add 1 red. This does have power in limited.
Definitely, yeah. Because its clause is so non-specific, it's just looking for non-creature spells to give you the extra spirits. Yeah, you could play this no problem if you're playing Jeskai Skies, or something like that. And the ability to sacrifice those spirits to get some extra mana is just, an extra bonus for sure.
I could see this being a really fun general to have in EDH.
Oh, definitely, yeah. If you just do Jeskai Flyers or something.
Jeskai Flyers, put in a little bit of love for spirits or for spirit tokens, like put in Indomitable Virtue or Intangible.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Things that buff tokens. Like this would... this has, Anointed Procession, so you can double those tokens.
Oh, yep. This is good.
This is good.
Yeah, seems like a pretty cool card. I'm quite a fan.
Me too.
Okay, next card we have is Lightning Stormkin. This is a 2/2 elemental wizard for blue-red. It has flying and it has haste.
And it is flown its way into my heart because I love cards like this that are just flying haste. They get in, they snap in, they get the job done.
Yeah, very efficient. It passes the vanilla test with flying colors. And,
literally.
Yeah. And it actually reminds me a lot of there in Tarkir block.
Oh,
there was a blue-red flying haste.
Are you thinking of Mantis Rider?
No, I'm not.
Oh.
It was just blue-red and had flying and haste. I think it was a 1/3.
Oh, it might have also been a Mantis, but I'm not sure.
I don't recall offhand. I will find it eventually, and then I'll put it in the video.
Yay! While you're looking for that, I'll give Lightning Stormkin my big thumbs up and move on to Moldervine Reclamation.
Sounds good.
This is an enchantment for 3, a black and a green. Whenever a creature you control dies, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Situationally good. Obviously, in a creature-heavy deck, this is going to have the most advantage. And because this is such a specific card, I could see some very specific decks really, really wanting this card. I certainly do. I would run this in any good Golgari deck.
Definitely. If you're playing any deck that is making use of yet another card that's name is escaping me. Black-green commander wants you to sacrifice stuff to get experience tokens.
Oh, to get experience tokens? Oh, you mean Marin of Clan Neltoth.
That's the one, yes. Where you're just always sacrificing creatures to be able to get your experience counter so that you can get stuff back from your graveyard. Mm-hmm. This is like an auto-include. You just throw this in there and you're getting extra value on top of all of the other shenanigans that you're pulling. This
is going in my Muldroth, the Gravetide.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's another great build that would be able to abuse this pretty easily.
Well, rad. I like that one.
Yes, me too. Next card that we have is Ogre Siegebreaker. This is a 4/3 Ogre Berserker for 2 black-red, and it has an activated ability of 2 black-red. Destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn. Yeah, so this is okay. I mean, it's a 4/3 for 4, which is fine. Black and red tend to have lots of fairly small creatures that you can kind of get in and poke at your opponents. And then if they happen to try to block some of that, you can really use this to abuse those tokens to make them into death touchers, basically.
Yeah, I think it works. It basically is a reusable Fathom Fleet Cutthroat. Mm-hmm. To a degree, and since you're already pinging stuff anyway, why not suddenly? If this is on the field, it's a little bit more of an obvious threat. I feel like this guy jumps out and just says, "Kill me immediately."
Yeah, fair enough.
Save a kill spell for me, but these uncommon ones are sort of signals for what kind of deck they want to be in. And the Siegebreaker is not quite as indicative of that, but I think it has merit in itself. So while I'm not like wowed by it, I think it can work depending on what the archetype. So I'm going to tell you all about Omnath, Locust of the Royal.
Oh, yeah.
This is another returning creature. He's an elemental, a legendary elemental, a 3/3 for 1 green, blue, red. When Omnath Locust of the Royal enters the battlefield, it deals damage to any target equal to the number of elementals you control. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target elemental you control. If you control 8 or more lands, draw a card. Wow.
Oh yeah.
He was mono green.
Yep.
Then he was angry.
Then he got angry and he was green red.
And now
he's angry, but he's standing in a river.
So he's still angry, but now he's a little more in tune. You know what I hope happens?
What's that?
Every time they introduce Omnath, he's got an additional color.
And then eventually he's just a 5-color?
Yeah, he turns into a 5-color Omnath.
That would be pretty awesome.
Next commander set, when we have 4-color commanders, give us a 4-color Omnath. Add black.
Sure. Yeah. Why not?
And then we'll have then you can have Wooburg Omnaths down the line.
Oh man, that'd be pretty funny actually.
Yeah. Joking aside, though, this is really cool and loves and sticks with the elemental theme. Would easily be a commander for an elemental centric deck. Is very powerful in its own right. Would absolutely run this if I opened it limited and just try and draft and or work with as many elementals as I can get my hands on.
Definitely, yeah. I really like Omnath. All of the iterations of his card have been great so far, and this one is no different.
Yeah, this it's good to see the old boys still alive and kicking.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty awesome to see it again.
Yeah.
Okay, next card is one that I think has been making the biggest impact or biggest waves, if we want to get punny, in the scene so far. We have Risen Reef. This is a 1/1 elemental for 1 green blue. Whenever Risen Reef or another elemental enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't put the card onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. So yeah, if you're playing in an elemental deck, this is a stone cold bomb.
This is a stone cold bomb. A lot of people are saying, I've seen the buzz around this. This is the best card in Core 20, depending on what you want to do with it.
I think that is a fair assessment because you play this out, and as soon as it enters the battlefield, you're gonna look at the top card. If it's a land, you're ramping immediately, and if you're not, you're drawing a card.
Yeah, this is a stone cold enabler. This is like, it's intense how good this card is.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. And if you're able to put it into, the right elemental deck, where you're able to play more and more elemental creatures, which again we've been talking about them a lot so far, but there are quite a few of them in the set. Mm-hmm. If you're able to amass that sort of army of elementals, you're gonna get nothing but value from Risen Reef, and it's pretty insane how quickly this thing can get out of control and really let you take over.
Absolutely. Man, it's too good. I almost need to avert my eyes.
It's also just beautiful art.
Yeah.
It's a reef that is walking. Not washed ashore. It walked ashore is the flavor text, which is, yeah.
If it weren't for the fact that this horrible entity is stalking from the sea, I would totally hang out on that beach.
Sure, yeah.
It's just gorgeous enough for it.
But then you're just gonna get crushed by a walking coral reef.
I'm gonna fly away on Sky Knight Vanguard instead.
Okay, sure. Why don't you tell us about them?
Well, they're a 1/2 human knight for red and a white. They have flying. Whenever Sky Knight Vanguard attacks, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token that's tapped and attacking. He also says, "Jump now!"
Yeah, this seems pretty awesome.
Yeah. Again, kind of like Ogre Siegebreaker. I think it's a step up, but still not a card that I'd be like, oh wow, this is super great or anything. I like it. I think it's good for what it is. Giving you a free creature every time it attacks is kind of nice. Just that little extra ping. You never know what it can pull off that way. So.
Yeah, it's definitely very Boros flavored, which makes sense considering that this is obviously depicting Boros legionnaires on Ravnica.
Uh-huh. Look at him go.
Yeah, look at them go.
Yeah.
Next card that we have is Tomebound Lich. This is a 1/3 zombie wizard for 1 blue-black. It has Death Touch, Lifelink, and whenever Tomebound Lich enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a
They
card.
should have called it Loot Lich.
Yeah, basically. This, I think, just quickly looking over the ones that we've talked about so far, I would rank this like right behind Risen Reef as the most powerful dual color card.
You think so? Because I would say it's a contender between that and Creeping Trailblazer for me.
Okay, fair enough. As an again, more elemental love is really good. You've obviously had some experience playing against Creeping Trailblazer,
Right?
I've been able to use Tomebound Lich and also have played against it, and being able to loot as soon as it enters the battlefield is really nice. The fact that it has both Death Touch and Lifelink means that you can slot it into that white black. You could splash this to get into that life gain sort of deck. Really serves as a great blocker, and because it has Death Touch, it's a really nice deterrent to allow you to get in against your opponent to be able to trigger your loot. They really have to think about whether they want to block them to deny you that card advantage or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely creates a lot of interesting decisions. But fair point, Creeping Trailblazer is obviously a very powerful card as well.
But I'd say they are about neck and neck. I'm not sure. Time will tell, I guess, with Tomebound Lich.
Yeah, for sure.
We have our final wedge legend. This is Yarok the Desecrated. This is a 3/5 legendary elemental horror. It's for 2 black, green, blue, Death Touch, Lifelink. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time.
Interesting. So this sort of serves as a different version of Panharmonicon from Kaladesh, which only doubled ETB triggers on your creatures and your artifacts. This allows it to trigger off of anything.
Yeah. I could see a lot of decks being built around Yarok. Like, this guy is really cool. Flavor Wind, too. I'm guessing this is an elemental that looks like it was hit by the same Eldrazi corruption that hit a good chunk of Zendikar. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of neat to see something walking around in the aftermath.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really neat flavor text here. The Lament for Balaged. Yarok grieves within the waste of Balaged's corrupted land.
I think there's 4 stanzas.
Right. We didn't cover the other cards when we were going through the set, but if I'm remembering correctly, in at least blue and in black, there are 2 cards that make reference to Yarok.
Right. So the flavor text on Yarok's Wave Crasher is Yarok's waters rush in rage where armies bled into the sand. That stanza 2.
Yes, and then on Yarok's Fenlurker, we have stanza 3. Yarok's nightmares lurk and wait where dark despair is near at hand.
And then in green,
a green creature. It's called Healer of the Glade.
Oh, yes.
This is stanza 4. Grief and rage and nightmares fade where hope and comfort make their stand.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very nice. It's a nice little story to be told through these 4 different cards. And it's also neat that it does tell that story. It starts off with Yarok itself being corrupted, and then we see the waters and everything being affected as well, and the black, the swamps and everything, and then the forests kind of trying to reinvigorate Balaged and everything.
Right. By the time you get to Healer the Glade, it's already started to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very nice little snapshot of the sort of storytelling that Magic can do on their cards, and between all 4 of those cards, I think all of them are pretty good in their own right, and it's really neat to see them flexing like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot. We have one final multicolored card to talk about. Then we're going back to sort of our selections, and we have Rayanne, Angel of Rebirth. This is the Buy a Box promo for this one.
Oh, okay.
This is a legendary angel, a 5/4 legendary angel for 2, a red, a green, and a white. So it's got Naya colors. It has flying. Other multicolored creatures you control get +1/+0. Whenever another multicolored creature you control dies, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step.
Okay, so it's it seems pretty good. It's a 5/4 flyer for 5 mana. If you happen to be running any of the other multicolored creatures, I guess no, this is a buy a box promo, so this isn't going to be in the limited.
No, it's not. You'd run this in standard, or you'd run this in Commander, or one of the other formats like that.
Sure. Okay, well, I could definitely see it getting some play in Commander.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it would be helming the deck itself, but you could run it in something like Niv Mizzet Reborn that cares specifically about multicolored creatures or multicolored cards anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some options for sure, but overall, it seems like a kind of fine card.
It's a fine card. It's not like spectacular enough that I want to buy a box just to get it. It's not like some of the other. Well, it's not like Nexus of Fate or anything like that.
Sure, yeah. I mean, Dave and I, we've talked about this at length. We have some feelings, TM, about the fact that Wizards offers buy a box promos at all. It's okay to see them when they're ones that aren't going to warp the formats of the set or anything like that, and I don't think this one is going to do something like that. But it's when we get cards like Nexus of Fate or some of the other buy a box promos that have been released in the past that are too good not to play that that's when it kind of irks us a little bit.
Yeah, so this is fine. I would say this is fine.
Yes, fine with a capital F.
Yep. All right, so multicolored. As usual, it's hard to evaluate multicolored, but I'd say because they're trying to give archetypes for all of them, the multicolored is pretty good.
Yeah, I would agree. There's obviously some really big standouts. Risen Reef has kind of risen to the top of... I'm just unintentionally making puns. It's risen to the top of the pack of pretty much every card in this set. It's been the one that everybody's talking about the most.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the wedge colored legendary creatures are all really interesting to look at, and if you can get them, maybe don't run them in your limited environment unless you can support the colors, but if you grab a copy, that'd be great for your collection. And yeah, by and large, I think all the cards are indicative of the sort of archetypes that the colors want you to be playing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so it seems pretty cool.
Artifacts.
So, the first artifact that we are going to talk about is a staple of any fantasy role-playing game you have ever played before or ever will play in the future. We have Bag of Holding.
Yes!
So this is an artifact for a single generic mana. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. You can pay 2 and tap it to draw a card, then discard a card, which you would then exile. Mm-hmm. And then you can pay 4 and tap and sacrifice Bag of Holding to return all cards exiled with Bag of Holding to their owner's hand.
Flavor win and very useful card. I actually just gave some of my players in a recent game a Bag of Holding.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a staple in every fantasy role-playing game, and for a reason. It's a very useful item. It stood the test of time. Everybody likes to loot stuff, and so having a small bag that lets you carry practically infinite loot is, what's not to like when you're a murder hobo adventuring through the countryside.
And now you can be a murder hobo in Magic as well, but
That's
for your
right.
own deck. So anyway,
yeah,
It's awesome.
Very
This
cool.
is a really good card, I think. So now we have a Colossus Hammer. This is a equipment for 1 generic. Equipped creature gets +10/+10 and loses flying, and it has equip 8.
Yeah. So
this is the part where you put it on a creature and then cast Fling.
Sure. Yeah. Or I've equip 8. That's obviously really, really big.
Oh, you can cheat it onto
Like,
something.
but you can cheat it. There's tons of cards that used to cheat it. I saw somebody talking about playing Glistener Elf and then playing Sigarda's Aid and then playing Colossus Hammer. And Sigarda's Aid says when an equipment enters the battlefield, automatically equip it to something that you to a creature you control.
Mm-hmm.
So you've just attacked your opponent for 11 with an infect creature. So hey, you won.
Boom. Boom. Exactly.
Yeah. This is again, in limited, probably not great.
No, not
but
really.
There's ways that you can definitely brew with this card to make it pretty crazy. It's just a big hammer, man.
That's a big ass hammer. I would hate to be on the receiving end of it, but my flyers would just laugh and be like, "Ha, doesn't even give you trample."
There you go.
So this is Golos, Tireless Pilgrim. He's a 3/5 legendary artifact creature, Scout. Like that's just his pure creature type is Scout.
That's pretty cool.
For 5 generic. When Golos, Tireless Pilgrim enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. For 2 and Wooburg, exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn without paying their mana cost.
So, in Modern Horizons, we had a colorless shapeshifter, changeling creature that was all 5 colors, had all 5 colors in its color identity, which means that you could use it as your commander in any sort of 5-color deck. Mm-hmm. And now we have another one. Golos, because he has Wooburg in his color identity, it's printed in his card somewhere. It means he can be used as a 5-color commander. And this one is not specific for tribal decks. It's just really good utility.
Yep. It's just it's a general sort of like I'll fix stuff commander, and more 5-color decks need that. This is the kind of card that I would put in a deck where I'd want to try and win with Maze's End.
Sure, yeah, is that you get to go looking for any land.
Uh-huh.
And then you just have it out there. You get to play stuff for free because you have all the colors. Yeah.
If you Ghostly Flicker Golos, you're going to get a lot of value out of it. This is a guy you want to flicker so you can cheat his ability over and over again.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, he seems like a really, really cool card, and great for anybody who's trying to brew an interesting commander deck but hasn't been able to find the right command. Mm-hmm. This one just slots perfectly into everything.
It does. It's great. I like it.
Yeah. Okay, so the next card that we have is another reprint. We have Graph Digger's Cage. This is an artifact for a single generic mana. Creature cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries.
I have fond memories of this card.
Yeah, as you said, it's like an oldie but a goodie. It's pretty strong sideboard tech in any sort of standard or constructed formats. But if you're going up against decks that care about graveyard interaction, this completely locks them out of the game, basically.
Yeah, it's mean.
Yeah, it seems like they included this to teach new players about how, graveyard interaction works.
True.
But it also seems to be a direct response to the fact that we have Hogak from Modern Horizons taking over every format that it's in. Because this basically ensures that Hogak isn't gonna come out because he can't leave his graveyard.
Right. This is also going to be a response to something in Standard, because if they print something like this now, it's like, hey, there's something in Standard that could use Graph Digger's Cage as a deterrent. That's
true. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's going to be almost only ever going to be a sideboard card.
Yes.
But in the matchups where you're going up against somebody who is using graveyard interaction, this card, you're gonna want it and you're gonna need it.
Yeah, most definitely. So moving on, we have Icon of Ancestry. This is a 3-cost artifact. As Icon of Ancestry enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1, and you can pay 3 and tap. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card of the chosen type from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So, as someone who loves tribal, it's always nice to see artifacts that continue to just be sort of generic tribal love, and I like this.
I do too.
Not a ton I have to say about it. I just like it.
Yeah, no, it's great. The thing that I like specifically about this card is the lovely stained glass window depicted in the art, which appears to feature Gargos.
Yeah.
Or at least some sort of Hydra, anyway.
Could be Gargos, could be Hydra. There's a Minotaur, there's a Vampire, there's an Elk, a Dragon, for all you people who want to do Elk tribal.
Sure. Yeah.
It could be a thing. You never know.
Never know.
Next, we have Mystic Forge. This is a rare artifact for 4 mana. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast the top card of your library if it's an artifact card or a colorless non-land card, and you can tap and pay 1 life to exile the top card of your library. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a card you want to run in a super artifact-heavy deck.
Right.
I would argue this might also work in a deck that's held by Amunatu.
Amunatu.
Top of Library Matters.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because now you can know what's up there.
Sure, yeah, and then you can just, like, continually manipulate it, and if you don't like it, you can get rid of it.
Yeah. I think this card's going to have value outside of limited. It's not very good in limited, but
No.
I think I'm looking more at the sort of look at the top card of your library anytime, and then the exile effect. Being able to cast the stuff is definitely what you want to go for, but I could see a deck held by Amunatu maybe wanting to run this card as well.
So the last artifact that we're going to talk about is yet another reprint. This one is Steel Overseer. This is a 1/1 artifact creature construct for 2 generic mana. You can tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on each artifact creature you control. And the reason that we wanted to mention this one is because it is a very big staple in a lot of artifact decks with old mechanics like modular, which is putting +1/+1 counters on stuff. This card is a big engine in those sorts of decks, and it feels like them reprinting it here is going to really help drop the cost of acquiring it, because it's been sitting pretty high for a while.
I'm all for that. And even in an environment where you don't have a ton of artifacts, this guy comes out early game and can start pumping himself.
Yeah, for sure. And then you just if left unchecked, you can end up with a really big creature in not too much time.
Right, exactly. So Steel Overseer is great, and it's great to see a reprint showing up just because the environment needs more of these to help bring the single price down.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, some good artifacts.
Some cool artifacts. Nothing that's like super exciting or standout, except for maybe Golo seems kind of neat.
Yeah, Bag of Holding is a phenomenal flavor win. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, some neat cards for sure.
We only got 2 categories left. That's lands and are the cycles we didn't talk about. So let's get one thing out of the way right now. They've reprinted all of the Tarkir lands, all 10 of them.
Yep.
So those are cool. You already, if they tap for their respective dual colors, their ally colors or enemy colors, and when they enter the battlefield tapped, they still give you 1 life.
Yeah, a solid, nice fixing in limited. Getting that extra life gain is usually just incidental, but sometimes it can matter. It's nice to see them back.
Yeah, having them in standard is nice. If you're not running a Gates deck and you need more additional fixing, even in standard, I would say just drop these in where you can. That little extra life can go a long way.
For sure. And then on top of those, we have a couple other lands that have been reprinted. Those are the temples from Theros. These are all of the allied color.
It's the enemy colors.
Enemy colors. Sorry, you're right. The enemy color temples. So we have Temple of Epiphany, Malady, Mystery, Silence, and Triumph. And the temple lands, when they enter the battlefield, they enter tapped, and they allow you to scry 1. And yeah, it's really neat to see them back. They were really good in Theros block, and it's awesome to see them with new artwork.
Yeah, the art on these is actually pretty nice. I think my personal favorite might be the new Temple of Silence.
Silence, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Although Temple of Triumph seems like a big step up from what it was before too.
That's fair. I like the Temple of Malady and the Temple of Mystery. I think that they are pretty evocative. Like Malady is, you see lots of those snakes,
right?
That the black-green Theros colors were all about, and the Temple of Mystery just seems neat, having these big hands.
Oh, those are hands, huh? I'm looking at it now.
They are, yeah.
Yeah. Just to be fair, let's also pull up Temple of Epiphany so people can look at it.
Sure, yeah.
The art on that. I mean, honestly, all the temple art is really good.
It is, yeah. All of the artists did a really fantastic job on these.
Yeah. So those are our. We have our temple cycle. We have our Tarkir land cycle, and then we got a few new lands we want to talk about that are choice. First of all, we have Cryptic Caves. This taps for a generic mana, and you can pay 1 and tap it to sacrifice Cryptic Caves, draw a card, activate this ability only if you control 5 or more lands. Huh.
Yeah, seems neat. It's a pretty useful utility. In limited or like normal environments, it's just going to give you an extra value card towards late game. But in things like Gitrog or Lord Windgrace, that sort of thing, this is just a super value card where you're going to be able to repeatedly draw extra cards because you're going to be wanting to sacrifice them and then get them back from your graveyard.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely ways to abuse this card, and it seems like a pretty neat utility land to include.
Yep. I like this one.
Next card that we wanted to talk about was Field of the Dead. The Field of the Dead enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it to add a colorless mana, and whenever Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token.
Absolute dud and limited, but a ton of fun in EDH.
Yeah, for sure. Where you're always wanting to play lots of a diverse set of land for your mana base. More than likely, you're going to end up with 7 or more different named lands at some point, and being able to get some extra value by getting some extra zombie creatures out seems pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Nice value card.
Definitely.
We have Lotus Field. This is a hexproof land. It enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice 2 lands, and tap, add 3 mana of any one color. So this is a better version of Lotus Veil.
Sure. Yep.
And because the thing with Lotus Veil is that was always subject to land destruction. This cannot be hit by a stone rain. It can't be hit by a sinkhole. You're fine. Mm-hmm. You can protect. You have your Lotus Field, and you can protect it.
Yeah, it's neat to see a land that has hexproof printed on it as not an activated ability. It just always has hexproof. And again, talking like we mentioned with Cryptic Caves, it might seem like having to sacrifice 2 lands when this enters the battlefield is a pretty hefty cost, but in pretty specific deck constructions, that's actually a benefit. So being able to put this out and get some sacrifice triggers, and then being able to produce 3 mana the next turn is really, really solid.
It is a very powerful card, and the drawback, I think, is not much compared to what you're going to be able to take from it as the game progresses, to always have something that you can tap for 3 mana of any color.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. All right, we did it. We have covered the majority of the set. I think now all we have to do is backpedal and talk just briefly about the cycles we haven't mentioned.
Yeah, so we've already talked about a couple of them, but there are 4 other specific cycles that we didn't mention when we were going through, and we want to talk about them at the end here, just to sort of recap them. The first one that we wanted to talk about was there is a cycle of colored artifacts. There's 1 in each of the colors, and they all have differing effects. So the first one that we wanted to talk about is Ancestral Blade. This is an artifact equipment for 1 and a white. When Ancestral Blade enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, then attach Ancestral Blade to it. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, and you can equip it for a single generic mana.
Have a bear, hit someone with the bear, equip bear's sword to other dudes later on.
Yeah, it's very cool that when it enters the battlefield, you automatically get a body to attach it to. So when you're trying to figure out your balance between creatures and non-creature spells, you should probably just be counting this one as a creature, because when you play it, it's going to have a creature attached to it, and you're going to end up with a 2/2 for 2, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Next, we have Portal of Sanctuary. This is a blue artifact for 2 and a blue. You can pay 1 and tap, return target creature you control, and each aura attached to it to their owner's hands. Activate this ability only during your turn. So this is a way for you to potentially save a creature from an instant, or replace some auras that you placed on a creature earlier. I think the fact that it replaces auras is pretty nice. Very situational, but has the capacity to be a decent card.
Yeah, for sure. As you say, situational, but pretty cool. The next one is the black. We have Blood-Soaked Altar, artifact for 4 black. Activated ability, you can tap, Pay 2 life, discard a card, and sacrifice a creature to create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery.
You know, that's steep, but really, if you have the way to do it, it's not bad.
Yeah, we mentioned way back when we were talking about black, the inclusion of, cards like Sanitarium Skeleton. This basically is made for that card because you're going to be wanting to find creatures that you can recur easily, and being able to sacrifice the skeleton and then pay to get it back basically means that you're only having to pay some life and discard a card to get a demon. It's also worth noting, because I have fallen prey to this, the altar does not sacrifice when they get the demon, which means they can repeat it over and over as long as they can pay for the rest of it.
Yep.
Don't forget that, because I've lost a game because I thought that they wouldn't be able to do it again. Anyways.
Anyway. Next up is Mask of Immolation. This is a red equipment for 1 and a red. When Mask of Immolation enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 red elemental creature token, then attach Mask of Immolation to it. Equipped creature has sacrifice this creature. It deals 1 damage to any target and has an equipped cost of 2. So
Pretty cool.
this is also kind of neat, just to give everything a little bit of a pop effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've seen other equipment do this sort of similar sort of thing, like Mortar Pod back from Mirrodin.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that was Scars of Mirrodin.
I think that was Scars,
because that would have been when the Phyrexians were around.
Yeah.
It pretty cool. It's pretty cheap. Again, another artifact that comes out with a body. Seems decent.
I think it's pretty decent.
Yeah. And then the last card in this colored artifact cycle is Wolf Rider's Saddle. This is another equipment for 3 and a green. When Wolf Rider's Saddle enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token, then attach Wolf Rider's Saddle to it. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and can't be blocked by more than 1 creature, and it has an equipped cost of 3 generic.
Kind of a pseudo evasion thing going on. If you throw it,
it's neat.
If you throw it on a creature with Menace, you've just got an unblockable creature.
There you go. Yeah, that's pretty cool. There you go. Another one of these equipment that comes out with a creature. If I had to rank the 3 of them, I would say I like the white one best, then the green one, then the red one.
Okay. I actually am the opposite. I think I like the green one, then the white one, then the red one.
Okay, yeah. That's fair. But it's a neat little cycle, and the other 2, the blue and the black, are both pretty interesting cards.
Right. And then it's cool. It's a neat little pseudo cycle. Now we get to do a more specific cycle. This is the Color Matters cycle. This is a series of non-creature spells that interact with some specific colors. We'll start off with Devout Decree. This is a sorcery for 1 and a white. Exile target creature or planeswalker that's black or red, and then scry 1.
Yeah, like with most of this cycle, that seems like a fairly, it's very situational because it's only targeting specific colors. I can never get this straight. If these cards are interacting with their enemy colors?
Yes, so white's 2 enemy colors are black and red, so...
Okay, so yeah, so this cycle is, cards that are dealing with their enemy colors, and destroying a creature is, very powerful, but the clause that it has to be a specific color means that it's probably going to be pretty decent sideboard tech, but not necessarily mainboardable. The destruction is probably good enough to run it if you're not able to do anything else, but seems cool.
I think it's fine. Again, a lot of these cards are going to be like, I would run this if I knew what my opponent had the opposing colors.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the next one we have, the blue, is Aether Gust. This is an instant for 1 and a blue. Choose target spell or permanent that's red or green. Its owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library.
You can totally tuck that thing away and it's gone.
Yeah, for sure. It's also worth noting that you can target spells, which means that you can target spells that are on the stack, and this is not a countering ability, which means that you could get any of the elementals that we pointed out that say this spell can't be countered or whatever. You could target those with this, and then make them go away.
Right, because you could just do it while it's on the stack. That's actually very cool. I didn't actually think about that, so that's very astute. Now that I know about that, I think like the way I'm evaluating the card has actually gone up.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Next, we have Noxious Gas or Grasp. Gas. That's how I would react if I was a centaur being eaten by a bunch of tendrils. It's a instant for 1 in a black. Destroy target creature or planeswalker that's green or white. You gain 1 life.
Yeah. Again, as with all of these, they're going to be pretty situational. The fact that you can target a planeswalker is very strong, permitting that they have one in that color.
It feels like the exact it feels like it's kindred to the white one, because the other one was exile a creature or planeswalker. This is destroy a creature or planeswalker. The white will let you scry. This one lets you gain a life. Yeah.
And then we follow that up with the red one, Fry, which is an instant for 1 in a red. This spell can't be countered. Fry deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker that's white or blue. So we had exile, we had destroy, now we have just straight damage.
I'm going to tell you right now, this is my favorite just because I'm surprised they've never done... You know how all the cards, everything now has to be 2 words because they've used all the choicest words for like a simple thing? Scorch, shock, char... Now we finally have just Fry.
Yeah, it's very evocative. It's pretty cool, and it's hilarious that the picture is a chicken that has exploded.
Yep. This card is a flavor win, and it just tickles me. So for that reason, it's my favorite of the set.
Fair enough.
And last but not least, we have Veil of Summer. This card is an instant for 1 green. Draw a card if an opponent has cast a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can't be countered this turn. You and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and from black until end of turn. I think this one might be the most powerful of the bunch.
Yeah, it's pretty... I don't want to say situational again, because all of them are that way, but being able to make all of your spells uncounterable for the rest of the turn, regardless of color, and then being able to give yourself hexproof from specific colors can be really backbreaking for specifically blue and black. Because they're going to be running lots of things to try and bounce your creatures, try to kill them straight off, and being able to just say, no, you can't target any of my stuff this turn, can really blow them out.
Right. If someone tries to... You can play this in response to a counterspell, which is kind of nice. You can also, if someone did try to counter it, then at the very least you've made them burn their counter.
That's right, yeah. It's perhaps not as overtly powerful as destroy something, exile something, do damage to something, or bounce a spell or permanent, but it definitely has a lot more utility than people might give it credit for.
So that's my favorite one in the set when it comes to power level, but I think Fry is still my favorite just in my heart of hearts.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Okay, so the next cycle we wanted to talk about is the return of ley lines. So there's 1 in each of the 5 colors, and ley lines, for those who don't know, they are all cards that have the text, if this card is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield.
That means we don't have to repeat ourselves for each ley line.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll just talk about what the specific effects of each of the ley lines are.
3.
And the first one that we have...
I was going to say, just for clarity, 3 of these ley lines are reprints and 2 of them are new.
Yes, and that's pretty cool, because we haven't seen new ley line cards for quite a while. So the first one that we have is one of the reprints. We have Leyline of Sanctity. It costs 2 white. It is an enchantment, as with all the ley lines. And this one says you have hexproof.
So it's simple. Now you don't get burned in the face. You don't discard cards. You can't have anything that targets you or your stuff. I mean, not your stuff on the battlefield, but just like the stuff around you that's targeting you. That's how it comes in handy. I'll say right now, absolutely none of the ley lines have any value in limited.
No, they're all very, very, very specific. People have been able to find ways to abuse them in constructed formats. Leyline of Sanctity is really big in a deck archetype that's called Boggles, which just uses really small creatures with hexproof, and then ways to buff them so that they're massive, but then your opponents can't deal with them. So having Leyline of Sanctity to be able to protect yourself as well means that you can't be targeted to make you sacrifice the creature, that sort of thing. But in a limited environment, like, there's not that much burn. There's not really any forcing you to sacrifice stuff. This isn't really going to do anything.
Now, next we have Leyline of Anticipation for 2 and 2 blue. You may cast spells as though they had flash.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I run one of these in my Asperia deck just because, hey, it's a good thing to have. And I just think about how the value of the card is gonna... The nice thing is the market value of the card is probably going to decrease, but that means more people can actually afford to get a Leyline of Anticipation. I was lucky enough to get it before EDH got really big and the price of it shot up.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that we kind of... Why we wanted to... focus on the ley lines here towards the end is because, like some of the other cards that we've talked about, these ones specifically on the secondary market, almost all of the ley line cards are worth something in the neighborhood of like $20 or more per card. And that can be really prohibitive for a lot of people. So the fact that they're getting reprinted here is going to bring the price down to a point where hopefully more people can get their hands on them and be able to play with them, because generally they're all pretty interesting and cool cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is, I think, one of the ley lines here, this is one of the more powerful ones.
Yeah, for sure. The next one that we have in black is Leyline of the Void. This is an enchantment for 2 black. If a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead.
This is also very good and one that desperately needed to be reprinted.
Very much so, yeah. It obviously screws over your opponent's graveyard interactions, because anytime a card goes there, it just goes away.
Mm-hmm. Now we have the first of the new ley lines. This is Leyline of Combustion. They all have pretty much the same casting cost. It's 2 and then 2 of its color. 2 red.
Yeah.
Whenever you or at least one permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, Leyline of Combustion deals 2 damage to that player.
So it's just basically disincentivizing your opponents from targeting your stuff.
Yep.
Which, I mean, that's what red wants to do, right? They want to punish anyone who's trying to get rid of their threats.
Yep. So, awesome. I like it.
Yeah. And then the last of this cycle is another new card. It's Leyline of Abundance. This is the green one. Whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green mana. And then for 6 green, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control.
How do you feel about this one?
So, Are you asking?
I'm asking because it mentions +1/+1 counters.
Okay, sure. So, in general thoughts, in limited, again, not worth playing. There aren't enough creatures that are tapping for mana. In my deck specifically, I don't have that many creatures that tap for mana. I do have a few, so it's possible that this might be worth investigating. Because especially later on in the game, if you don't have anything else to do, being able to sink 8 mana into just buffing all your stuff seems pretty good. I don't know. It's in the maybe pile for sure.
Okay, awesome. So that's not our last cycle, but this is the last cycle, and then I promise you we will wrap this up.
Yeah, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, we'll have to see in the end if this was longer or shorter. I think it's going to end up being shorter.
I hope so.
We have a lot to say about some of these cards. This is the Cavalier cycle. This is a group of elemental knights that all have one usually evergreen keyword attached to them, or evergreen ability. They have an ETB effect and a effect when they die. And the fact that they're all elemental knights plays into the theme. There's one for each color. Up at the top with white is Cavalier of Dawn for 2 white. It has Vigilance. It's a 4/6. When Cavalier of Dawn enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token. When Cavalier of Dawn dies, return target artifact or enchantment from your graveyard to your hand.
This one, I had the luck of being able to play with it in a draft. Its ETB effect to blow something up is really great. You can get rid of your opponent's biggest threat, or if you have nothing else going on and you need some more board presence, you could even blow up one of your own small dinky creatures that you've had from the beginning of the game to upgrade it to a 3/3. The die effect is not that powerful and limited. You can maybe get something back like pacifism if it's in your graveyard. There aren't really any artifacts that you're gonna want to go and get back. Probably.
Yeah. But all of these are limited bombs, and you should absolutely run them if you get them.
Yeah, definitely. A 4/6 with vigilance just by itself, that's already decent.
Yeah.
The next one in blue is Cavalier of Gales. This is a 5/5 elemental knight for 2 blue, blue, blue. It has flying. When Cavalier of Gales enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. When Cavalier of Gales dies, shuffle it into its owner's library, then scry 2.
It can never die.
It can never die. I mean, it can be exiled.
It can be exiled, but if it dies, it just goes back into my Asperia deck.
Yeah. It's pretty cool that when it ETBs, you get to brainstorm, and the fact that it goes back into your deck and then lets you scry some if they're able to get rid of it is really powerful. And the fact that it's a 5/5 flyer is really, really solid. And I think if you get your hands on a copy of this card, you should 110% be playing this.
Oh, I totally will be. I wish that was when the pack I won.
Oh, hey, that's cool.
Next is Cavalier of Night. This is a 4/5 for 2 black, black, black. It has lifelink. When Cavalier of Night enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, destroy target creature an opponent controls. When Cavalier of Night dies, return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Woo!
Yeah, pretty cool. So comes out as long as you have something that you can sacrifice, you can blow up your opponent's biggest threat, and then when it dies, theoretically, you can get back the thing that you sacrificed.
Yeah, it's great. Man, all the knights are so good. I don't have a bad thing to say about any of them.
They're obviously worth their mythic status, and they're all balls.
Yeah.
The next one in red is Cavalier of Flame. This is a 6/5 elemental knight for 2 red, red, red. It has an activated ability. 1 in a red. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. So kind of pseudo.
It gives everything fire breathing.
When Cavalier of Flame enters the battlefield, discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards. When Cavalier of Flame dies, it deals X damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control, where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard.
This card and the elf that cares about lands, that sacks lands, are best friends, and they hang out all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice that its enter the battlefield effect helps enable its die effect, because you can discard a bunch of lands from your hand to ensure that if it dies, you're going to be able to deal a bunch of damage to your opponents.
Oh yeah, it's this card. This guy's awesome. Look at that 6/5 body for instead of having and I like that instead of having a static ability, it just gives everything fire breathing.
Yeah, fire breathing and haste in case you need to get something going.
Oh
fast.
yeah, that's right. But you have to pay 2 for it. But dang, that's might make it one of the better. I don't know. They're all about on par in terms of power level. And they all have the same mana cost. It just dawned on me. Every single one is 2 and then 3 of its color.
That's right.
So now we have Cavalier of Thorns. So I'm not even going to say the converted mana cost. It's a 5/6 with reach. When Cavalier of Thorns enters the battlefield, reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Put a land card from among them onto the battlefield and the rest into your graveyard. When Cavalier of Thorns dies, you may exile it. If you do, put another target card from your graveyard on top of your library. This elemental digs into your deck.
It sure does, and then fuels your graveyard. So yeah, overall, the Cavalier cycle, it's very good. All the cards are very powerful in their own right. It feels a little bit like they were trying to recreate the Titan cycle that was back in Magic 10.
Yeah, come to think of it, a little bit, huh?
Because there's one monocolored creature, or one color for each of the 5 monocolors. They all have somewhat similar effects where they enter the battlefield and do something, and then they die and they do something. Their enter the battlefield effects generally enable their die effects. They're very powerful on their own. They're not to the same power level as the Titans, because those cards are frankly kind of busted, to the point where some of them are banned in most formats. But the Cavaliers, they're really cool, and as mythic cards, they're obviously very powerful. And we kind of wanted to save them for last because they're some of the more exciting, cool cards that you might come across in your M20 drafts and stuff.
Fantastic. Yeah. No, I would definitely if, like I said, if I had opened one, I would have said this is the color I'm playing, generally speaking.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, they're a big indicator that maybe you should be playing that color.
And with that, our whirlwind tour of Core 20 comes to a end. Nick, I can't believe we did this again, but here we go. We did it.
We did it, and yeah, hopefully this one was a little bit less painful. We realized that our first episode was quite long. There was lots to talk about, but we hope that you enjoyed listening. We definitely enjoyed going through the set. There's some really interesting cards that are out here, both in limited formats and for the constructed players as well to take back to their own formats.
Yeah. We would love to hear your feedback about the show and maybe some things we could keep working on, things to improve, things you liked. We're still trying to kind of hem down how we want to do this, and I think this is a step in the right direction, just handling it with just sort of picking out cards that strike our fancy, cards that are worth talking about.
Yeah, it felt, from our end anyway, it felt a lot more streamlined, a lot more like we had some extra direction that we maybe didn't have the first time around. But, we're going to continue refining this as we go, and we've been having these talks reviewing sets for years. So we'll probably just continue recording them as we move forward, and you'll be able to hear all of our crazy tangents and stupid jokes, and hopefully maybe learn a few things about the cards and the sets as they come.
Because heck, we're just going to do it for ourselves anyway, even if no one listens to these.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, that said, I think until whatever comes next, be it the new Commander or whatever set it unveils itself from the Field of Snow in the future, I think we can go ahead and work toward going to the combat phase.